Mustache? No. Sideburns? No. Goatee? Maybe. Beard? Beard! Feel neglected? Not doing too well with the ladies? Well, I've got the solution for you! Low self-esteem? Grow a beard! Afraid to follow your dreams? Grow a beard! Are you lonely and sad? Grow a beard! You wanna look good and plaid? Grow a beard! Are you working out? Grow a beard! Did your car break down? Grow a beard! Ice caps melting? Grow a beard! Are you stuck in the middle of nowhere and you need to make an important phone call but the battery's dead and you can't find an outlet to plug in your charger? Grow a beard! Grow the beard, feed the beard, brush the beard, manscape the beard, stroke the beard, love the beard, fear the beard, obey the beard, obey the beard, obey the beard, behold the beard, obey the beard, accept the beard, obey the beard, respect the beard, obey the beard.
Oh my God. Becky, look at his beard. It's just so beard. Your enemies with the beard. Catch a fish with the beard. Roundhouse kick with the beard. Troll the nets with the beard. Chia pets, beard. Drive a truck with the beard. Try your luck with the beard. Arm wrestle with the beard. Teenage Mutant Ninja beard. Pet the doggy with the beard. Pledge allegiance to the beard. Can't grow a beard, then buy a beard. Do you have a beard? Then grow more beard.
You need to shave this thing.
Shut up, Grandma! Grow a beard! Jump in the beard, drink to the beard, cause beards are good and scruff! Obey the beard! Behold the beard! Obey the beard! Accept the beard! Obey the beard! Respect the beard! Obey the beard! I was so empty and lost inside till I grew you. I put my faith in my facial hair to get me through. Well, I can defy the odds again and again with you on my chin. With every moment you grow closer and closer to my heart. I love you, beard.
If you love it so much, why don't you just marry it?
Do you take this beard to be your lawfully wedded beard? For bearded or for worse, in scruffiness and in beard, till shave do you part? I beard. Abe Lincoln had a beard. ZZ Top, epic beard. Dimebag Darrell, Nettle beard. Chuck Norris, kick-ass beard. I'm the one making beard. Chewbacca is a beard. Santa Claus, Jesus Christ, God has a beard. Obey the beard! Obey the beard! Obey the beard! Obey the beard!
Welcome to what is episode 17 of this uncensored fork that we like to call Beard
Talk Live.
Talk Live.
Indeed. We're forking here.
What the fork is going... Oh, wait, we don't have to say forking because we're uncensored. We can say what the fuck is going on around here.
So you know when I say, what forking show is this? I'm just referring to it being an offshoot.
It is. So
when you play that song,
Yeah.
does it get played on... Do you get a YouTube... Is there a YouTube video of this? Is YouTube live? What's going on?
when I play that song, all people see is the Beard Talk Live logo.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we didn't bother with YouTube, did we?
No.
Yeah.
What I'm saying
fuck them.
is if it's up on YouTube, that band is going to get all the monetization from this video.
Neat.
Not that there's any monetization from Free Talk Live videos.
Yeah. And
Good for them.
Yeah, it's fine. They probably appreciate the free publicity that they're getting.
I bet they do.
And
They haven't sent a thank you note. This is our, what, 18th episode?
17th, yeah. 17. We are, old enough to, what did your parents let you do at 17? Date? Drive?
You can go see a rated R movie.
Rated R movie, that's right.
My first date.
An NC-17 rated movie you can,
Well, I guess I shouldn't say my first date.
but not an adult website. Sorry.
The first date, sort of with a, in high school, real girl, that kind of thing. She was an upperclassman. She was, I don't know, I guess she was a junior, and I was 16. I know that much.
Okay.
And my friend was working at the mall, and it was Aliens with Sigourney Weaver. This is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I'm going with this 17-year-old girl, just basically hoping that I can get into this movie. and fortunately, my friend Bob is working at the theater that night, and he, he's like, just make sure you can let this guy into this movie, and like he gets me through. It would have been very embarrassing. This is the first date with this girl. And
High stakes, man. High stakes.
It was high stakes. Yeah.
You made a thing, or at least enhanced. You prepared a thing, but I don't see it on your chin, Mark.
Oh yes, I need to put the beard on.
Obey the beard.
There we go.
I've got my beard on.
All right, you're
So tell me,
you're
do you
beardo.
believe in artificial male enhancement?
That's kind of what it is. I have had beards a couple of times in my life, and I just don't love them.
Like, are you able though? Like, I've seen scruff,
Goatees.
but, like, okay, all right.
I can grow goatee.
I think I've seen you in the goatee.
That would have been a long time ago.
Point, but like on the show or something. Right?
So I would like to point out that there is absolutely a fundamental manliness to expressing your resistance to torture, whether that is your resistance to the poison of alcohol, your resistance to excessive capsaicin. Not my favorite. I don't engage in that game.
I like that one.
Yeah?
Yeah. I put extra rooster sauce in my pho bowl. Pho bowl.
What's rooster sauce?
Sriracha.
Sriracha
is a brand of rooster sauce, but
right,
usually it
does
has a
have the big
rooster on it.
Yeah,
right,
so
okay.
that's flavorful spice. I'm talking about manliness testing spice.
Yeah, I'm just not into that.
Me neither.
I'm not for spiciness as a personality type. You can go ahead and do it if that's what you want. Now, I eat super spicy food. Well, okay.
I'm a spice wuss. I bust a sweat off of like Taco Bell mild sauce.
Well, you absorbed too much liquid sunshine is what happened.
Yeah.
I do have a good spicy story, though. I was given one of those peanuts that's covered in the ghost pepper stuff, and it's watch out for this. Just a guy at a
Why
bar
don't you save it for now?
passing them out, just sort of seeing whether people will take them, that kind of thing. And I'm like, yep, I'm going to do that. Now, first off, I'll say luck was on my side. It just where it hit on my tongue was a spot that just is going to be harder to burn than most. But this was the spiciest thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Okay.
And, I chewed it up the way you're supposed to do it. They had, like chew it for 10 seconds or whatever the thing was, and then, swallow and, all that. I chewed it up, swallowed it, chased it with some water, and I had more water than I normally would have with something.
That's where you went wrong.
I know, you're supposed to have milk or something, and but ultimately I just showed no expression the whole time. Like, this is spicy. I'm telling people it's the spiciest thing I've ever had. And the guy giving out, it's like, he wants to laugh, but what are you exactly you're going to do if the person's not going, "Wah!"
Well, and that is the exact point of these manliness tests.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to not hurt you. The whole point is that it hurts like hell, but you maintain a stoic expression, which means that when you stab yourself accidentally while we're hunting, I can expect you not to wuss out.
It's true.
It's just how the whole thing goes.
We have to get business out of the way. Normally, we do the 7 words, chant them together. So let's get that out of the way. It's shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
Okay. I'm glad you know them.
I feel good.
Not for the first half a dozen, I don't think, but you muddle your way through.
Like, it occurs to me much later in life, like just a couple of weeks ago, I was watching, there was a sort of a George Carlin documentary kind of a thing talking about his life. And so I was reminded of the fact that he was arrested for saying those 7 words that we just said while giving a performance at Summerfest, which is this huge music fest that goes on in Milwaukee every year downtown on the lake. It's huge. It might even be the largest musical gathering, they have some sort of claim to fame about it being the largest thing. Anyway, he was
largest single day outdoor music festival
like
held in a park with a lake.
It's like it might be 2 weeks. I think it used to be a week, but I think it's 2 weeks now. But at any rate, he said those words, making light of them, just as he does in the act that he's famous for. And, of course, some Karen was like, oh, he said the bad words. What about the children? And so he got arrested in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
What year was it?
72, right?
Okay.
Like, I'm born that year.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, oh, weird. And I remember hearing little bits about, George Carlin was arrested in Milwaukee for saying, like, growing up. But, like, it didn't hit me that it was, like, that close. Like, I was born in Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So, like, I didn't, like, put that together until just a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, oh, shit. He did that in the town I was fucking born in. That's awesome. Like, it makes me feel better about, like, enjoying his art.
It gives you an idea of just how much things have changed since 1972, too.
Yeah.
And, I mean, Free Talk Live changed dramatically and fundamentally when Janet Jackson's boob was shown.
Really? That's like a pivot point for
the show? It was a pivot point for the show. And it went from sort of, we were a, man talk kind of show to a much more news talk kind of show.
Current events
for
and stuff.
Some years. And honestly, I don't know that we've ever gone back to the man talk as much as we did at the time. But nothing has happened since then. I want you to think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Just think about radio and its presence in 2022 in America. And ask yourself, other than offending some little old women, what could saying the 7 dirty words on broadcast stations possibly do? You're not going to corrupt the young minds of American youth, because they don't give a. They're busy watching people say "fuck" on YouTube. And when they're done with that, they're going to watch porn on PornTube. What is it called?
Pornhub is the number one.
Yeah.
And notably accepts primarily cryptocurrency because they fell afoul of the old not banning so much as like make it harder to bank rules, Operation Choke Point kind of stuff. And
like the idea that you're protecting kids, like they're sitting in their in their rooms with a transistor radio underneath the covers, listening to Free Talk Live. What the fuck? What kind of idiot thinks that's the truth? I
have seen absolutely no attempt whatsoever to deal with the fucking world as it is. Like, okay, guys, we have opened a world where humans can come into existence without any fucking ever occurring. Mm-hmm. We obviously live in a world where the expectation of society, for largely ill, is that you can fuck without consequence.
All right, we have to.
I guess that's true.
We have to do a thing here. Nobody can hear me? Nobody can hear me, but I cannot hear him. Hang on.
I hear just push all those mute buttons. I heard him.
Say something now.
Hey.
Hey.
Tell me the 7 dirty words.
Shit. Fuck, piss, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits. I think I got them out of order.
Yeah, but you got them all.
You made a passable shot at it.
They were all included. So nobody, you can't see this, but Mark has donned a beard. It's a fakie.
And I gotta say, it suits you.
Can you see the beard?
It's a fakie.
I cannot see anything.
Yeah, no, he won't. Yeah, he won't be able to see it, but it is recorded for posterity. Is
there some ways that you can? Because I do have a video link. Is there some way that you can send your video feed back over my Jitsi link?
Well, if there is, I'm not willing to explore it at this moment. Also, it might be beyond my wizardry to do so.
Yeah, now might not be the time. That was more we should look into this one day.
Yep. Absolutely. We will do that. It looks like there might be, we know who it is.
I have questions for Peakless also.
Beard Talk Live, who the fuck is this?
It's our official greeting.
You got to speak up.
You can tell Mark doesn't listen to the show.
It's true. Here we are, progressing you.
Fuck off,
no
Rich.
attention.
I feel like we got some volume things going on here. Let me see. We can go ahead, Major.
Major Beard.
Are you there yet?
Oh, you are super.
Major
are you talking into the phone,
Beard.
Major? Are you up on it?
Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Ew. Here.
Go ahead. You're on Beard Talk Live. What's on your mind?
I just took. Did that help? I think I took it off speaker.
I don't know, but you sound hammered.
All right.
There, I took it off speaker.
Are you hammered, Major?
All right. So, hey, you know what? I'm a very old soul. I don't know if you guys have ever even thought about this. I've been alive so many damn times. And I'm just trying to get it right this time around.
This is the time?
Right now, this day? This time?
Well, I don't know if it's this day, but I hope it's this lifetime.
So what's the secret to getting right? Is it staying drunk most of the time?
Well.
Oh, well, I self-medicate.
Certainly you do. It's pretty obvious.
Did you lose him?
I think he's still there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right. Well, you're on a talk radio program, but your talking is moving.
Major Payne, do you think that when you go through these past lives, do you meet the same people, the same souls over and over again? Like, for instance, is your ex-wife your former sister, your mom at one point, these sorts of things?
Well, I don't know, quite frankly, because one thing that I do know about marijuana pot is it impedes on your dreams. And I have smoked marijuana pot since I was 12 years old. So,
I question your use of the
I
word
have had a
impedes.
lot of clouds in my questions from heaven.
For the record, marijuana hasn't had nearly as much effect in suppressing my dreams as the government has.
and my hopes.
Well, that's a fact, but oppression comes in all sorts, and I'm just trying to muddle my way through this shit. My son's going to prison. I'm going to be dead before he gets out.
Oh no!
And it's all because of fucking methamphetamines.
Well, it's all because of the fucking war on drugs, is what it is.
Meanwhile, I take legally prescribed amphetamines, and I'm just fine.
Right? Yeah, I was required to take them for school as a child, and yet, here's what it is. You're cutting in on their scam. You see, your son was counterfeiting their lawfully created pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, they put my one stepson on Ritalin. And then it come time where my son, my actual son, was old enough, and they tried to put him on that crap too. And I said, no, you ain't.
No.
But dude, there's so much dirty history in my family. My ex-wife was a cancer patient, and she was, on welfare and whatnot. So the only money she could get was her medication. She turned my son into a drug mule, selling her Oxycontins.
Oof. This is a terrible story, and I'm really sorry to hear it.
It's like I said, I'm just trying to roll through this fucking life and trying to do it better, but it don't seem to fucking help none.
I'm sorry,
I
Major.
hear you.
Well, here's the thing about trying to do it better. You may not see it. Like that's actually why we have this idea of moral good, is because the shit that you do for the moral good is usually not anything you'll ever see. But the fact is we had so many generations just trying to do better that we ended up being able to
doing really well.
Yeah. And they were effective enough at morality that we established enough trust that we could trade, and everyone got rich to the point that we basically don't starve anymore.
Well, I've always tried to give you boys a trifecta. I'm trying to do that to myself too. Peace. Fuck, I'm broken.
Well, maybe you should take some time.
Yeah, I think we've all been there.
And reflect,
Yeah, there's a ritual that the Jewish people do when someone dies. I forget what it's called, but they take just a solid week And it's just kind of an expected thing. And it's like, okay, someone really close to you died. And I mean, this is
sitting Shiva, I think.
That's it. Yes. Sitting Shiva. And like, you let the people know around you, yeah, I'm going to sit Shiva this week for this.
Yeah. And then you let the grief work, right? You mourn, and that's fair. And your son going to prison is a very fair reason to mourn, especially.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it feels so unfair, and I know. I mean, I can only. I'm just grateful.
It is unfair.
I'm grateful for my mom. I spent 8.5 years in prison, Major. I don't know if you know. I'm grateful for how she came to see me. Every 2-3 times a month was about right. Not every single weekend, but.
Anybody will even write a letter. So fucking grateful for all you understand.
Major, you're mumbly. Can't understand you.
Anybody you will even write a letter to are very grateful for it.
Well, and this is why they put in the Bible a blessing for everyone who visits someone in jail. Like, you have done to the very best in humanity what you have done for the person you visit in jail, because it is lonely. And that's why it's torture. It's literally a torture of loneliness.
Yeah.
I have to now try to mend my my grandson and my son, and somehow make my grandson forgive my son for being where he is.
Well, making people do things,
I have.
Tell them how you feel.
On my hands here, boys.
Yeah, tell them how you feel, and make sure that they know that you can't make anybody feel a thing. So. Don't chase after something that's unattainable, but certainly let them know how you feel.
Yep.
Major, I'm gonna go ahead and drop the call for the night. Get yourself some rest, brother, and we'll talk to you the next time.
Yep.
Peace.
Tell your grandson you love him. Tell your son you love him. That's all you can do, and try to be there for them. And it's the best you can do. Try not to be judgmental.
Yeah, I've lost some loved ones over the last couple of years, and. The healing thing does happen after some time. Yeah. But of course you never really get over it, right? They're a person that used to be in your life and they're not anymore. And when I even think about people that have been gone for, decades that I've gotten over, parents, that kind of thing.
Right.
And when I think about them, I still feel it, right? It never really goes away. It just kind of hangs out there for you to think about, go, oh yeah, that's right. I was sad about that, and then you forget about it again and move on with your life.
Yeah. It's, seeing your kid go to prison is
I can't.
Next to seeing, having them have to attend their funeral. It's terrible.
That's why I honestly suggest you sit Shiva.
I think you're right. I think it's a good way to.
The only way out is through. That's all I can tell you, man.
I have to mention 603.
How did go ahead.
I just wanted to mention 603-283-6160, the same number as Free Talk Live we're using here on Beard Talk Live if you want to call in and talk about whatever's on your mind. Go ahead, nobody.
Which reminds me, how did the trial go today?
Isn't it like Saturday or something?
It's Saturday.
It is Saturday.
There was no trial today.
How did it go yesterday?
I didn't go yesterday. As I understood it, Renee was hit the stand. That's Ian's ex, was on the stand, and Ian's lawyer, said that she did pretty good. Nice. I asked Ian to rate her testimony on a scale of 1 to 10, for 10 being good for him, 1 being bad for him, and he rated it a 7.5.
Okay. That's positive news.
Bonnie, who is Ian's wife, who is very worried for Ian's well-being, and you can imagine she is I think it's fair to say, a nervous wreck. Mm-hmm. She felt that the testimony was less helpful. She gave her a 5 on a scale of 1 to 10, but certainly could have been worse. Also, the guy that faked being a drug dealer, is an IRS agent.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He was on the stand, and apparently, according to Ian at least, Sisti just beat the hell out of him.
Nice.
Got him to admit that Ian never told him that it was okay for him to use the Bitcoin vending machine to make purchases or whatever.
Good.
And just basically Sisti shot down the money laundering charge, which I just don't think is going to fly.
Nice.
I'm really delighted they dropped the wire fraud charges, because those were the ones that I was worried about the most.
Yeah.
The money transmitter ones are, interesting, could go either way. I've heard legal opinions in different directions.
Right.
So it seems to me that they didn't change their plan after dropping the wire fraud charges, because
the testimony is all about wire fraud.
Yeah, exactly. In the opening, it's like, oh, they were arm in arm with all these scammers, and we're going to bring in all these people who've been scammed. It's like, yeah, it's money. It can be used for evil.
You know what else is used in scams all the time? The dollar.
U.S. dollars.
Like most of the
I need to get an
all
explanation.
the kinds of money.
I need to get an explanation from them of why the fuck didn't they drop those charges against me?
Well, but you didn't take it to trial.
Right. That's why.
That's the short answer,
well,
really.
Their job is supposed to be to get justice, not to convict innocent people.
Agreed.
I
agree with
you.
you.
But it's not what they're supposed to do.
Oh, that's much better.
That's way better, man.
Oh, thank you for adjusting your headset, because now we can hear you.
Yeah, I realized that I had knocked the microphone part up, so it was a couple inches away from my mouth.
Oh, you sound significantly better now. Thank you.
Indeed.
Good.
Where were we?
I have some questions about medieval fair life. I happen to know that you, Peakless, at one point, I don't know what the term is, but were the
Rennie. The term is I was a Rennie.
A Rennie. So
to be most specific, a road Rennie.
So kind of like a deadhead, except for Ren fairs?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but with the exception of there is Shakedown Street, where sort of their bazaar, their market is, but outside of that,
they call it Shakedown Street.
I thought so. Yeah.
Do you know where that term comes from?
There's nothing shaking in Shakedown Street.
Yeah, that's what they call it at Grateful Dead shows.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So now you would actually know on this one.
I thought you were saying Renaissance fairs.
So that's actually the comparison or the comparison contrast we're trying to make. So as I understand it, the bazaar is really the only work that gets done in the Deadhead shows. And although that is definitely a huge part of the actual fair, is all of the shops of like, ooh, handmade. I didn't know that was a thing.
Right.
There's also a bunch of independent shows. So like all of the people that are going from show to show, like 100% of them work.
At on the Shakedown Street.
No, on
at the Ren
so and that's what I think is probably different from a Deadhead is like they follow them around, and if you do it for a while, you probably have to either have a trust fund or figure out how to make a living. But like from what I understand, a lot of them just do it for raw entertainment rather than for work.
So
well, I mean, everybody has what they call a trip or a something they do when they're on the road, or you fall off the tour.
Right.
You know, you can't just keep going unless. I mean, I'm sure there are some kids with trust funds, but not many.
And there was definitely some crossover between Deadheads and Rennies.
So I don't think he's finished his question.
Oh, no, I haven't even started with my questions. So how long were you doing the Ren Fair circuit?
Better part of half a decade.
That's pretty impressive. Okay. So what'd you do there? What were you?
Oh, just about everything. My first.
You look like a big barbarian. Did you have like a loincloth and an
so I
axe?
actually went the Scotsman route, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So yeah, my first one was behind the scenes, so no garb required, and that is the term. Doing turkey legs, which was just absolutely fantastic for me.
Smoking them?
Because I fucking love turkey legs.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
some people are kind of put off by like tearing meat off of bone. I know it's
doesn't
cliche,
bother you,
but like I love it. It's great.
It's
wonderful.
meat on a stick, but it's naturally occurring, right? So it's like nature's corn dog.
I think I can do with one turkey leg a year, but I don't like the tendons that are in them. Just prefer not to mess with that. I like chicken legs just fine.
Smoked anything, like that's just how you do it, and
Indeed.
it's the best. So if you can get a smoked turkey leg, to me that's top notch.
Yeah.
So you did a variety of things, including dressing up as a Scotsman with a Claymore.
Oh yeah, that one was great. I learned about the New Yorker sense of tone. Of tone.
Uh-huh.
So this at one point I had been I got given this enormous great kilt, which is of huge expense, and at the same time, like, she still talked to me like she was pissed. Apparently, that's just New Yorker for you.
Do you know how they invented copper wire?
I do not.
They put a penny between two Scotsmen.
Exactly.
That's very funny. So, Scotsman being cheap. You'd said, and I wanted to make sure that I set this up, and I didn't get an answer from you. I wanted to get the answer here on the air. You said that Rennies travel, but they what is it? It said they're the only travelers that don't travel in groups or something?
Oh, yeah. That's one of the most fascinating things about this. I mean, from, I guess, an anthropological perspective. So every other kind of traveling people, Romani, the travelers in Great Britain, all of them, they basically work like towns. Like they're these little towns, and they all sort of caravan.
Grateful Dead.
Right. Grateful
Dead. Dead don't caravan.
Carnies. Oh, Dead don't caravan.
No, I mean, there will frequently be several in a car, but it's not necessarily a caravan.
Mm.
There might be small caravans within it, but it's not as a single group. Deadheads are kind of like cats.
The better to slip through.
Yeah.
All right.
So, whereas Renaissance Festival, so the thing is, there's multiple Renaissance circuits, and running all across so there's mostly a West Coast and an East Coast circuit, but all year long there's
Texas doesn't get any. No one goes to Oklahoma Ren Fairs.
So the biggest Ren Fair in the country is in Texas.
Okay,
all right,
and it runs sort of concurrent with my favorite, not that one, which is kind of sad. Best fireworks show I've ever seen in my life. Like, oh my God.
At a Ren Fair?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shout out to Alan Hutton. He's amazing. He teaches like classical swordsmanship, including to kids, which is just wonderful. And he does pyrotechnics. Which I guess
he knows how to live.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, sounds like a good full life.
Not a fireworks guy, but man, that is quite a show.
So when... okay, so let me ask the question. Now, I'm from Sarasota. The Sarasota Medieval Festival is widely known as like the longest running Ren Fair that uses the word medieval in it, or something like that.
Right.
And I've gone to this thing since I was in high school, and it's been around for a long time.
It's the SMF. Really?
Something
Sarasota Medieval Festival?
Yeah, something like
There's
that.
a Twisted Sister has a song called SMF.
Oh, I'm not familiar.
The reason it's called SMF is because it's actually sick motherfucker. But I think it's funny that the Sarasota Medieval Festival shares an acronym.
Medieval Fair, maybe. Anyway,
yeah, SMF.
It's still the same. So let's say you and I are working this. We're or we go there and we decide we're going to be Rennies, and we got our swords, we've got our kilts, and we're ready to go. How does one do it? Like they're packing up the festival. You're like, you just say, I'm not leaving. I'm going with you guys. I'm going to the next Ren Fair. And then how's it work? How do you get started? How do you travel with these people?
You get started whatever way you do. I mean, you just work out a business with them. I mean, there's people, they need someone for the next show. They can do it themselves, but they'd rather, hire someone. There's bound to be a handful of people that are in that scenario at pretty much any given time. I mean, it's surprisingly resistant against depressions and recessions because people always need distractions. People always need circuses.
It's always fun. Yeah, that's what it is. It is a circus.
Yeah.
It really is. It's a form of traveling entertainment. I suppose there's some animals involved somewhere. Somebody's probably dragging around a donkey or something.
Yeah. And now there is an obligate caravan entertainer because you have to travel as a group in order to get like all of the animals and the rings and all of that.
Okay. And so are the next festivals close to each other? I mean, how does it...
Oh, you can go all over the place. I once drove from Pennsylvania to Texas in one shot.
How do you find out where the next festival is? Do you just make a decision? You say there's a list, and you're like, well,
they plan these things.
There's going to be three of them running the same weekend. I want to go to the Texas one.
Yeah, like there was a list. I ended up getting a couple of editions for that. You know, every now and again, someone will just take what they know and put it into like a newsletter sort of a thing.
Right, I was going to say, there's got to be a periodical that says, like when I ran with the carnival, there were these magazines you had to go to the right bookstore or apothecary to get one of these, but there's a magazine that will tell you where what carnivals are at any given time throughout the entire season. And so there has to be a periodical for Rennie's, right? They book these, much like concerts, they book these in advance, they promote them, they do flyers and
these
advertising.
Days you can look on Wikipedia, for fuck's sake. So,
sure.
But mostly it was just you talk to people, and I mean, what are you going to talk about? Hey, what are you up to next? You know?
And what is... So, I mean, you've got anything from the guy who sells pickles, right? He just travels on his own.
Oh, that motherfucker could sell like you would not believe. More tips than anybody, absolutely legendary.
And so there's one guy, you know, he could pack this stuff up on his motorcycle with a little trailer and travel across the country to people who, like I would imagine the Human Chess show or whatever event or whatever, that... You've got to go, like, these people have to go together because they have their little strips. I mean, I've seen them fight. I know it's choreographed. You can't just do this.
Right.
These people are using real weapons or something something metal. How's that? Weapons made of real metal. And metal. They're swinging them at each other. You can't just fake this. You have to spend some time on getting it right. Now, these people probably travel in a bus.
Oh yeah, so the ones that would do the swords, that's mostly the jousters, and they had a serious ego problem most of the time.
Yeah.
Although there were some very notable exceptions to that like bucked the trend of it, because you know they're kind of, along with turkey legs, something that people straight up go there to see.
Sure.
And like if you don't have those two elements, there's going to be some people disappointed.
There were no jousters at the medieval fair this year.
Now, if there were no fire jugglers, I'd be pissed.
There were definitely fire jugglers. But I thought that was interesting. There was no jousting at this one, and that's really common. Now, the jousting can be either actual guys,
common in the sense of underling and lame,
right? That are putting lances and hitting each other with these lances. I've seen it. To people, poking lances through circles and doing a variety of things just to show skill. And that's great.
Right.
It's not as exciting. But so this could go in either direction. I mean...
the mock combat, I think, is an absolutely essential part. Along with turkey legs, it's seriously the two most mentioned things about what people expect when they go. So, and now, personally, I think that the New Hampshire show has no alcohol in it. And I think that is an absolute travesty.
What?
I know. So here's the thing. One of the greatest things about these shows is you drink, you have fun, you have some weird food, watch some funny shows, and you buy shit that you wouldn't ordinarily buy.
Right. Yeah.
Like, frequently things that you have the good sense not to buy, but then you look at it and you're like, yeah, that was kind of awesome.
Yeah, with a little imagination, you feel like you were just in a period piece.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, where else do you drink mead? Although that is really common in New Hampshire for some reason.
Yeah, they got a lot of mead in New Hampshire. And it's very nice to have a mead and, say a craft beer or something like that. Yeah. So generally, I mean, is the one Ren fair that you're at, does it split up and then go to other Ren fairs?
Yes.
Some people stay home. Some people are like, I just do this one Ren fair every year. And then other people go and it just goes poof like a dandelion.
Yeah. So there's definitely locals. Ordinarily, all of the performers that are working for the shows as actors tend to be locals, whereas the people
the performers that work for the shows.
So the king, the prince, the knight, the whatever, all that, right?
So
whereas
the reason for that is that way the well connected in the community can pay extra money for VIP treatment, and they can be called a king or a prince or whatever of the event.
Yeah, works great.
Yep, got it.
Also, it lets you like hire local acting troops that want to get. It's a whole thing.
And aren't there like reenactors too? They do like the jousting and all that kind of stuff.
Kind of a different thing, but yes. Okay. Another crossover is the Society for Creative Reenactment that does a lot of that.
Yeah, did you know that David Friedman Milton Friedman's son and Patri Friedman's dad, is part of that. He's been long doing this reenactment stuff.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
I mean, the guy's so thoroughly into it that he makes medieval meals at these things. He's looked it up. You know, like what did they make? How did they make it? And how realistic can I get? And he's just into it, and you know, I think he's just a fascinating guy.
Well, he is a bona fide expert in history, so
yeah,
I'm not surprised he knows how they ate.
I like Patri, but I gotta say his dad is just fascinating to listen to. I could just sit there and listen to David Friedman all day. So the Ren Fair basically it disappears and then turns into, you know, like 3 others, and they all go in different locations and popping off. How many Ren Fairs generally? What's Ren Fair season? Is there an off season, on season?
So there is technically no off season, but winter is only in Florida and California.
Okay, so
and they just have them go. So the whole thing is you chase the spring. The entire thing is chasing the spring.
Okay,
that's when people are most likely to be out in the best mood. So Colorado, very cold place, so you have to have it in the summer. And if you wanted to do Colorado, then you couldn't catch all of Minnesota. Again, dead center of the warm time.
Yeah.
And whereas like February, Arizona.
Yeah, right. Arizona, Florida. Yeah, those kind of things. So did you ever go up to Canada?
Nope.
It always in the U.S. Yep. I presume there are Ren Fairs in Canada. They're just populated by Canadians.
I mean, I would guess, but I really don't know. I did find out that the equivalent in Europe, which, man, they would have such great Ren Fairs because they still have the buildings, but their equivalent is Wild West shows.
That's glorious.
Yep.
I want some pictures of the Indians. Who has the guts to do that in America? Okay, so and how many Ren Fairs are going off generally in one?
Pretty much 2 all the time, except for the winter. Well,
2 in the United States.
Not including like I said, California and Florida. And now, mind you, this is all in the before 4 times. God only knows what survived the propagandemic.
Yeah. Well, I imagine they're trying to ramp up. But so you're just saying there's one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast every weekend. So then why don't my question here is, why don't 66% of the Ren Fair people in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania go to the next Ren Fair that's in Charlotte, West Virginia?
There's only so many spots.
So how many spots are there?
Depends on the size of the geographical place.
Do they take time off?
Some do. I mean, there's a lot of crafts, and you can only do so many crafts when you're only working 5 days of the week. Although a lot of people, that's just what they do for winter. So yeah, I mean, it's whatever you have set up. So if you have called ahead on this, you might need to call a year in advance and get this site. Otherwise, it's going to fill up.
A lot of people just like sell swords or something like that, and those are the kind of things that you're just buying those from China. You know, I mean, they're not selling.
Oh, we hate that.
They're not selling $100 sword.
You get such a bad reputation. Like if you are even a show that does that cheap imported crap, we hate that. Although they frequently make an exception for the little like coin skirt belly dancer outfits.
Okay.
Because those are unbelievably difficult to make. So like actual legitimately handmade ones are expensive.
Well, wait 1 second now. When it comes to swords, Rich, I'm not trying to cut you out here. You can ask any questions you want.
Nobody.
Yeah, that's okay. I've been keeping myself muted a lot because I'm coughing up a storm here.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear you're ill. So, when it comes to swords, there is no sword like a knife, a handmade knife in America is $100 minimum. There's no, nothing. You just can't make a knife by hand in the United States for less than $100. And if that's the case, you can't make a sword for less than $1,000. So I can't imagine that they're selling legitimate swords made in the U.S. for much for anything that's competitive.
I think that one might be an economy of scale thing where like, okay, it takes X amount of time and effort to create the blade of a knife, But to have a larger knife blade, I mean, it's going to take more time, and materials, obviously. But how much more? So
I saw one legit sword purveyor, and then I saw a lot of cheap Chinese crap. Now that doesn't mean that I know everything about Ren fairs.
No, but you're versed on cutlery.
Yeah, I understand swords, and I like them, and I'm interested in them. But I also have if you like the Chinese ones, you're a customer for somebody who's going to make a better knife. So, I mean, you got to have these entry-level things for people.
Sure.
You know, the person who's willing to spend $50 on, a crap sword one day is willing to spend $250 on a better version, and then $500 and then $1,000 and these sorts of things.
Sure, yeah. If you become a fan of the thing and get into it and study it, that's certainly how things progress. You usually start out with an entry level thing and progress up to the higher quality stuff.
But if you're going to start, putting your garb together to be a patron, you may very well order a sword online that is crap. Yeah,
that's fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's our and it was there when I got there. That particular neologism.
So this was what happened in our family. So Jack and I were going to go, and he's got a knight outfit. I've got the king outfit. I've got the kilt that goes with the king outfit. I've got the Albion sword and the whole shebang. And, I'm dressing up if I'm going to this thing. You're darn right. And Jack's like, hell yeah, he's in.
Right.
And his, the whole family went and did a little dressing up, and it was pretty cool. So why not? And they have fun with you. You have fun with them.
Right.
It's a fine time. And by the way, the guy with the nice sword hut that had the good swords.
Right.
He recognized my sword without me pulling out of the sheath as an Albion, and I have no idea how he did it. And he clearly knows what he's talking about.
That's his business.
Yeah.
And he does it well, obviously.
Yeah. So it was a lot of fun and that sort of thing. So you'd say that generally there's only one Ren fair per week.
I'm saying
coast
outside of I flat out don't know the California and Florida schedule. From what I understand, they're all the time. But other than that, there were pretty much always 2 of them going on, except in winter. Because nowhere is spring and winter except for Florida and California.
I went to a Ren fair.
Probably too hot to do it during the full-on summer.
Somewhere near the Minneapolis, St. Paul area, within probably half-hour drive, wherever that was. And I remember it being advertised on the rock radio station, and it seemed to be an annual thing. And I didn't hear of another one, at least not for the Minneapolis area all year round. So it's my experience. There was also one in the Seattle area that would come around once a year, and that would be it.
Yeah, anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months.
Yeah,
they will run for 2 months.
The one in Colorado would run for 2 months. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think the one in the Minneapolis area ran for 2 weeks as well, and I think the Seattle one was 2 weeks as well.
The one in Sarasota ran for 4 weeks, but then again, it's what was it? I guess it was November. So
I went every single week for 1 year. I was into that.
Yeah, and that was before you joined up, or
yeah. Oh yeah.
So how'd you get joined up?
Oh.
He showed up one day and they were like, "You can't leave."
Right. Here's a Viking helmet.
So I was sitting outside the office, waiting for someone to see about getting a job at the Renaissance Festival, because fuck do I know about this?
The office of the Renaissance Festival?
Yeah, because that's the thing. It's technically what's referred to as a syndicate.
Okay.
Because it's a bunch of different corporations all working together on one thing.
Okay.
So one of those corporations is whoever runs that particular show. And there's a couple of big show owners that own a bunch of them, and then a bunch of little ones. And this was one of the big show owners.
And is it usually put on by locals, the show, and then the travelers come
for the most part.
it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it sounds like it's going to be fun. Go ahead. So you went outside, you were waiting outside the trailer. You're just like, I love this, and I'm going to find out more.
Yeah. I'm just sitting there reading, I forget what, kind of said hi to a guy. Then he ended up coming back. I didn't even recognize him from the first time, and brought me in to talk to me about this and that. And one thing I remember that was very distinct, he asked me flat out, just looked me dead in the eye and said, "Can I trust you?" And I loved that.
Yeah.
It's like, that is the shit that everyone wants to know, isn't it?
But trust me to do what? I think is really a better question. There's some things you can trust me to do, and that job will get done. There's other things you simply cannot trust me to do.
Yeah.
If you're up to no good, I'm not your guy.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna huckster the people there. I'll pretend to be some kind of barbarian, but I can't let my hair grow long. It bothers the heck out of me. So I'm not gonna be very convincing.
Put on a wig.
Actually, most people kept their hair short.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that like Vikings even did, except for when they mention it. Everyone basically kept their hair very short.
Because you could pull on it in a fight.
Yeah, especially if you were going to be like a knight. I mean, that is, it's a straight up soldiering thing that you don't want that tiny little disadvantage.
No, why would you?
Women, on the other hand, would grow their hair long for exactly the same reason.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they'd be able to do much styling, so length is just the thing to do, right?
Yeah, it tends to be like a warrior versus soldier kind of thing.
What do you mean warrior versus soldier?
So like if
With
you have
women's hair?
if you have the so like the older school of warrioring, where it's sort of still connected to the hunter and the animistic culture and shamanism and all that sort of thing, like they tend to have longer hair.
Okay.
And I guess that's kind of their way of connecting. And whereas if you're a soldier, one of the things is like you all kind of need to fit in a pack. So it's part of the uniform to not have hair. Like you don't want to have this guy look different from this guy looking different from this guy and have this whole thing. It's like, no. Shorn, all of you. Plus it gives you the advantage of not having something to grab in battle.
And also if you're...
It makes it easier to be a sheep if you're shorn.
Another thing that's worth mentioning is that the biggest killer of soldiers until World War I was disease. And, if you've got long hair... Well, lice and the kind of pestilence that goes around camps is much more likely than if you've got short hair. So, that's the reason for
There's
short hair.
something to be said for reduced surface area.
I'm just wondering what would happen if we did an episode of Beard Talk Live at a Ren Fair. Because that's an awful lot of beard.
That is an awful lot of beard.
All
right. Not the New Hampshire one, though. It's lame.
Oh. Really? We gotta go out of state?
I told you, man, no drinking. It's absolutely... I'm sorry, you can't have a proper show with no drinking. Like, you're not even allowed to just, drink and then come in. Come on, guys.
All right.
But, out of state is, it's Massachusetts.
So let's talk about beards for a minute, because I've got some questions. I recently tried.
I actually like that one on you, although it does obscure the butt chin.
Right, and that's one of the things I thought about. Is I've got a mild butt chin, not a dimple. Yeah, just the cleft, the small cleft in the middle, and
behold my Superman.
Do I want to give up the cleft? And women sometimes they'll touch it, which is it feels good. Anytime anytime you get attention from any woman is nice.
He likes it when a woman touches it.
Yeah, indeed. Who doesn't?
So I think probably your best bet then is to grow it like a lacy bra, as it were, to accentuate the curves of your cleft.
Well, sadly, I can only grow a beard in the Van Dyke area. And so I recently tried to do a mustache.
Well, no, I'm saying like if you had like a half inch there, I think it would
Is
just
that in
accentuate.
Illinois?
What's in Illinois?
The Van Dyke area?
That's clever. So I recently tried to do a mustache. I wanted to pull off the handlebar one, and I just like the way those things look.
Yeah.
But I cannot get past the first 2 weeks. It drives me bananas.
You only have like another week to go at that point until it.
That's what everybody says. Yeah. But
you're like almost like right when
right
it's
now
you
you've got the length on your upper lip. You've got the length that I had on my upper lip, and I couldn't stop my mouth from trying to touch the hair, and like my fingers would go after it, and it
gets itchy. Yeah.
God, I don't know, itchy. It's just like it's a new mental illness that I've got a collection of pet peeves. I don't need a new one. I got a little peeve zoo in the back. So I guess you guys aren't going to tell me some secret to growing hair.
No,
then.
just it's really just laziness.
Stop touching.
You just have to be lazy enough to let it go even further when it gets to the point where it's driving you nuts, and then it stops driving you nuts somehow. Like nature just sort of takes over and kicks in and is like, oh, you're good now.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe that phenomenon to you. Like if you just let it go long enough, eventually nature's just like, okay, you're adjusted now.
So in the song,
you can increase the speed at which it grows, so it's a shorter period of time by just like give it a little touch, not too much.
I pretty much have a sauna wherever I've lived, and that sauna helps with growth too. It opens up the pores and these sorts of things. So that's my
better blood flow.
Yeah, that's my plan there.
You were mentioning the song.
The song addresses grandma telling you to shave.
Shut up, grandma, grow a beard. Knocks the phone out of his pal's hand.
It's very clever. But this is also another problem I have with facial hair is that my mother just doesn't like it. And
are you a mama's boy? You're like,
you know, I go there often.
I won't judge you, but
I go there often enough. And she's got something to say if I've got a beard or any kind of facial hair, you know. So I often will grow this little, I call it the CD Vegas punk beard. It's just a little strip at the bottom
of the
chin.
Yep.
And, you know, I usually don't let it get long enough to even really think about, but just a little something there. But now it's all gray, and I don't even know why I've got it.
So, like, I mean, for me, it's just literally, it's easier for me to have a beard than to not.
Okay.
It's less maintenance for me. I have an unusual rate of hair growth on my face. I get a 5 o'clock shadow around noon, maybe 1 o'clock. So if I shave at 7 in the morning or whatever, like it doesn't even look like I've fully shaved when I'm fully shaved. So, like for me, it was just okay. Well, I want to shave less. How can I do that? Oh, I'll grow a goatee and sideburns so that now I've cut my shaving time in half. And we've covered this on previous editions of Beard Talk Live.
But it is Beard Talk Live.
But it is Beard Talk Live. So we'll continue to talk about beards, of course. In fact, I have a beard story.
Ooh.
Well, before you go on with your beard story, I want to get in. I want to talk about this the shaving thing. So I can. Rich is probably my best example here of the lazy man's beard.
Nobody.
Yes. I don't like the name Nobody, and he doesn't. And he has given me dispensation to use the name Rich.
Okay.
Because
everybody has that dispensation. Nobody is the character, but Rich is the actor, and we both exist.
Thank you. So my contention is that the name Nobody is not a disambiguation, therefore not a name.
Okay.
And although he has legally changed his name to Nobody, I actually prefer to say Rich Paul because
you
then
can call him Rich, whatever you want.
Yeah, that's the way it goes. So Rich
what
has
about
he has
Nobody
an
formerly known as Rich Paul.
Yeah,
he has
that's
an epic
fully
beard.
disambiguous.
I think that the most clever was always Pope Indigent the First, but nonetheless, he is a clever man.
I liked that one too.
As the current Pope, I give you full dispensation to refer to him as Pope Indigent the First.
And what's your title?
He is, after all, Pope Emeritus.
And you are.
Hang on. You know, I had it in my head, and then it just left.
Well, your beard and Rich's beard both fit into the lazy man's beard category. This is the full-on...
Hereticus, that was it.
What is it?
Hereticus.
Hereticus, it's clever. This is the full-on laziest thing you can do, which is just let all the hair
just stop shaving
on your face grow.
Yeah.
Now, in my opinion, when Rich had his hair shaped, I think it was not the last Pork Fest, but the Pork Fest before or something like that, he looked like a Civil War general, and I just thought it was the best look, and I'm really into it. But nonetheless, otherwise, there's this sort of shaggy hobo beard, right? And
yeah, I mean, if I could find somebody who would do that regularly, I would do that regularly. I don't know. I need supervision, and I don't have.
But it was good for a month, I'd say.
My wife died.
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
It looked good for a month, the trim, and so you can go a ways on it. Anyway, going on, the second laziest thing to do is to shave your whole face, is my contention. Because then you're not trying to make a shape, you're not spending any time, you're not looking and, poking and stretching and finding that last little bit and that kind of thing. And then every beard after that is much, it like goes from some work to ridiculous work. Like those, like sometimes guys will have this little pin stripe of a beard that goes up and around.
All, yeah.
Well, whatever you like or dislike, it is a lot of work. And so, I mean,
or if you've got a combination of that with the like waxed mustachio, so that's a perfect mirror of every single punk that I've ever seen grow old, and not all of them do. They always either end up with this haircut or dreadlocks. For exactly that reason, because they are just the lowest maintenance thing possible.
For those of you listening, he pointed to my bald shaven head.
Yeah. Which is the same thing that you're describing with just shaving it is the easiest thing.
I'll point out I was a punk in high school, and I just do the standard businessman haircut because I got sick and tired of getting pointed at and marginalized or whatever over the clothes I was wearing and the haircut I chose and those sorts of things. And to me, it's artificial prejudice, right? Like, I don't need it. And, I don't need to fight for hair rights or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut my hair the way that people want to see haircut. And I'm going to go about life that way. And it's really worked for me. I'm an ex-convict, and the worst kind of ex-convict, and I managed to stay gainfully employed all the time and be relatively successful financially and grow my radio show to the point that it's...
Beard life is not for everyone. And in fact, I don't even know that until we came up with Beard Talk Live, Peakless and I had talked about doing... some sort of maybe resurrect the Kick-Ass podcast or do something of our own, and we tried and failed a couple of times, and we agreed to do some things, and then we didn't, neither of us did them and that kind of a thing, and then nobody popped into the picture. He's always got ideas, and just one night it so happened that the three of us were on Free Talk Live.
Right, and there was She Talk Live, so Beard Talk Live was a natural outcropping.
Right. And so like that was actually like the pilot episode of Beard Talk Live was that one day when it was Peakless, Nobody, and myself here in the studio for Free Talk Live.
You look like the founders of Beard Talk Live.
Yeah. And so like I don't know that.
So even if Ian's on it, I mean, he's not like he's got the beard that you guys have.
Right.
Yeah,
but he can grow one.
I just wanted to leave my options open, and I did it for long enough that it became the thing that I did.
But I think, like, it's mere coincidence that the three of us, like, I don't think any one of us really judges anybody else because they do or don't have a beard, right? We're not like,
no,
that guy sucks, he doesn't have a beard, or like, ha, look at him,
It does make me a little sad, to be honest. Like, well, no, I
can't grow one.
So here's my issue with it, honestly. I like gender. I think it's a good idea. And, do your variations and do, like, a traditional swap. If you want to be a stay-at-home dad, great. But, like, I think that exists for a reason, and I think that it is a subtle removal of a valuable thing to have all men be expected to have the same facial hair as women and children.
I would contend that is the plumage for this particular primate. But what I would say about it is it just goes in trends. So I like to look at presidents as a way. So people will vote for presidents as the most conservative thing that's going at a given time. So we started out with powdered wigs. You got several guys with powdered wigs until a guy without a powdered wig just didn't have it anymore. And then you got but they're all clean shaven. So then you got clean shaven until Abe Lincoln, which the story is some little girl told him that he would look better with a beard, so he grew a beard.
Okay.
And then Abe Lincoln and the Civil War generals and these kind of things. So you have a whole generation or so of presidents that are what bigoted. What is the term to have a beard?
Beardo.
Okay, bunch of beardos.
Bearded. You even went through the great General General Burnsides.
Burnsides? There was
that was actually what it was named for.
Ooh.
General Burnside had the most epic sideburns.
I see.
And that he was actually what they were named after.
So then there was, and then they go to mustaches. So, mustaches went from big ones on like Grover Cleveland to, the little gay one on Woodrow Wilson and, these sorts of things.
Yeah. I forget he had a mustache.
Yeah, it was a very small one. Wasn't much to it.
All right.
But I mean, Teddy Roosevelt's quite good. Nothing that Franklin Delano Roosevelt did was good as far as I'm concerned. And then facial hair gone. Like there's not another whisker of facial hair after maybe Teddy Roosevelt or something. I don't know. I mean, I haven't
made it onto the Mount Rushmore, and then progressivism took hold.
So World War I, basically.
About that time frame, and we haven't seen them yet. Now we can definitely see that beard fashion has come back.
Yeah. I would say that it has, and in fact, some people will make fun of people. There's I'm trying to remember the term for hipsters.
Okay.
Right, and hipsters supposedly always had beards.
But hipsters are gone. Like there's no hipsters left.
Are they though? Like
I don't know.
What happened? Where did they go?
I mean, hipsters are still around. I mean, these days they have gauged ears in addition to their waxed mustaches, but.
Do the things you're going to do so they're not permanent.
But so I do look at having the beard as sort of a punk rock thing, right? It's sort of a anti-conformity statement as well, right? You don't normally see bureaucrats, right? Trying to like get themselves elected with a shaved head and a giant fucking goatee. Right, you just don't see that, right? It is, the look of, a rebellious person, if you will, and I do keep that for that reason because I still am at heart a punk, a metalhead, right? And I was always like, I had long hair as a kid, and like I got so much shit for having long hair.
A punk or a metalhead, because it's not the same thing.
So I was punk rock for a bit, but I was a metalhead after that. So like I came through punk rock.
It's all loud and deafening.
I was a skater first.
Well,
so.
What I would say is I would agree with you that there probably won't be the bald head and the goatee, the long goatee, but like I would have no problem voting for a guy who had Rich's haircut when he had the Civil War general. Like
the jacket on, right?
Yeah. That's it. Just I would vote for that. That's not a problem. And I think we're going to have that bearded man probably in the next 20 to 30 years. Just a guess.
Yeah, I doubt it.
As president.
Oh, I see.
To me, president is a bellwether for the acceptance of what conservatism is at that time. From because a lot of people will only vote for a president that they think is good looking.
I can't imagine putting that much thought into what the president is.
It's just my
come
guess.
to that conclusion.
Well, I saw the patterns, and that's what makes somebody autistic.
I hadn't thought about it in that way.
What if it breaks up before then?
What, the United States?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to.
Why do you think?
Okay, so the reason that the United States exists is because other nations exist, and the other nations aren't going anywhere either. It's the kind of forward momentum, and they're also on the top.
Nobody's talking about the nation ceasing to exist, just the government.
This government's going to stay there too. So. At this point, the United States is the most powerful. The United States government is the most powerful organization on the planet. So, therefore, everybody wants to be part and thus support it who are seeking power. And there's a lot of them.
Right.
Well, nobody certainly doesn't want to be a part of it.
I mean, debatably, China and Russia are headed by people who also want to seek power, but do not actually want to be on the side of the U.S.
These are the other two that you would talk about. I think that you could have at one point called Switzerland sovereign, but I don't think you can do that anymore. Once they broke and gave up the Swiss bank account numbers, then that was it. But, any nation that is sovereign at this point is sovereign in poverty, not sovereign in success.
Right.
So let's just say China,
thank you, fiat currency,
Russia, and the United States are the only sovereigns. Well, Russia is a shadow of its level of power at one point. It's really a regional power as opposed to a global power. It's not a superpower anymore.
Right.
China is potentially moving up to superpower status, but its level of making money and China is simply the manufacturing hub for the United States' goods that it wants, and their totalitarian state minimized the birth of children, enough children for so long that they're going to be hobbled. They are hobbled, and they will be hobbled much more as time goes by because all those people are now getting old, and they have half as many people to support them. The United States has this problem to some extent. The baby boomer generation being globally the largest generation yet.
Right.
Yep. So before or since.
Right.
And that's why, it's always the baby boomers like, what about the world population? You fuckers were the end of it.
Yeah.
Like, this is it. Nobody wants children after you sons of bitches got out here and acted like a bunch of entitled fuckholes. Like, you ruined humanity. Like This is it. You reached the pinnacle of what it was like to be a human, and you shit all over it, and now nobody wants it anymore. Like, they're like, I can't believe I'd bring a kid into this world. What they mean is you, boomers. And
to be fair, democracy was half of that equation.
They love democracy.
Yeah, you can't do that.
Because it works for them.
You can't have a sudden population bulge in a democracy.
Yep.
Because what the fuck do you think is going to happen? They're going to beat everyone else up and take their stuff.
Right, and so then, of course, the millennials were the next biggest generation, leaving us poor as Gen Xers in the middle. And
yeah, you guys got shafted, and by you being shafted, they shafted our entire species because you're supposed to hand the power on to the next generation.
Right, the one thing that the boomers and the millennials can agree upon is that Gen X sucks, and that they should pay for every fucking thing that those two generations want.
Dude, I feel sorry for Gen X. I mean, like, if I have one serious gripe about Gen X is, like, I think that you could have tried harder to take power from the boomers.
And we're probably never going to get it. It's quite possible we go from doddering old Biden to and Trump to AOC.
God.
Or something like her. And there's never a Gen X president.
I'm still on Team Kamala. Yeah,
me too.
Like, January 20th, watch the fuck out, Joe, because that character's about to be retired. That is my suspicion. It'll be like a nice, calm, like, oh, well, he got the COVID, and his failing health, he's decided to hand it over.
Well, let me finish up on why the United States isn't going anywhere.
Is it going to come back to beard at some point?
No.
Oh, okay.
There is. It's not going anywhere because there's no competition. The greatest nation on earth is, by its definition, it's comparison, right? Like, it's not a great nation, it's the greatest nation on earth. So there must therefore not be another great nation. And there's no second, there's not even anything in second place. I mean, obviously there has to be a second place, but nothing's coming up close, and nothing can hold a candle to it. When I was a kid, do you remember the whole, Japan's going to take everything from us? And come on, where's Japan now?
Yeah,
clearly absurd. 100% zombie banks at this point. But have you heard anything about, like, the BRICS stuff that's coming together?
BRIC stuff?
BRICS, yeah. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. It was theorized back when I was in high school, and we're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because they wanted us to do a debate on the topic of BRICS. Which wasn't a thing, but it's becoming a thing. They are currently in talks to create a commodity-backed currency, and to allow other countries to enter their commodity basket of commodities currency with whatever their commodity is.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that that's the only way that you would see something. But this is still theoretical, okay?
Talks are happening now.
Great. So there's also talks between Great Britain, Canada, United States, New Zealand, and Australia
to create NATO?
To create. And Australia is not in NATO. This is to create an English, basically an English sort of trading sphere. And I think that these federations are a good idea. I think that any nation, like, what they should create a federation and say, we do free trade here. We do free movement of people here. We do, whatever it is they want, right? Democracies, whatever. All you have to do is meet our threshold for what is so, what we like, and then we'll let you in. Not like NATO, where it's like every one of our members must vote to let you in, and therefore nobody gets in, and NATO's just a protection thing. But
bullshit.
I think that you could make the argument that if you outsource the military to these things, and basically said, look, all your job is to protect this trading sphere. You're not out there doing other stuff, which of course the United States would always protect the high seas because it it benefits them, and they manage. As long
as they're the reserve currency of the world, they are kind of obligated to protect trade routes.
Yeah, I don't like really any of what you said. Not that I believe what you said. I don't like that there seems to be, like, as big as the bureaucracies are of the nations currently on planet Earth, that they're still growing.
I don't think you need to have bureaucracy to have trade. And I will use the United States as an example. The
more bureaucracy you have, the less trade you will have.
I would agree.
Yeah.
In the United States, I can manufacture something in Presque Isle, Maine, and I can sell it in San Diego, California, without having to jump through nearly as many hoops and regulations and things like that as if I decide to go sell it in Manitoba or Toronto or Mexico City or Santa Cruz,
right?
Whatever.
Unless you have an anarchist radio station, and then the fascist pigs will drive a tank in your fucking house.
True. All I'm saying is that I can buy and sell without too much licensure and difficulty within the United States. And all I want to see is more of that, not less of it.
Agreed.
That's a good thing about the Federation. Now, there's lots of bad things about the Federation of the United States, and I think that we can, for those that are sensitive, you can just turn off your radios now. I think the Constitution failed a long time ago.
Oh, of course it did. It's meaningless.
But that doesn't mean
that's all it is.
Long since Spooner Pill.
The government has either authorized such government as we have had, or it has been powerless to prevent it. In either case, it is unfit to exist.
Now, if we had a bunch of Enlightenment era thinkers to put together a new constitution that would then presumably fix the problems of the old one or something like that, I think that this could work. But federations are working all over the world. Right now, all nations.
Now for the new revolution.
Almost
tip my hat to the new constitution.
Almost every nation, and I think every nation, belongs to some sort of federation, if not a half a dozen of them.
I mean, for those people who think that the United States Constitution means anything, I implore you to go and look at the constitutions of, like these nations that you're being told to hate, like Korea, right? South Korea, North Korea. Which one's the bad one? I don't even know.
North Korea is the
North Korea. Yeah,
bad one.
They have a constitution, and if you go and read it, sounds really good.
Oh, it does.
Sounds almost as good as the U.S. Constitution.
Right.
Right? You're like, oh shit, and like you go look at any country you don't like, they've got a constitution, says all the same shit, totally fucking meaningless.
Yeah,
agreed.
Certainly lacks the thing that all laws have, which is, and if you fuck this up, here's who will decide you fucked it up and punish you in the following way.
Right, and don't forget the court systems are corrupt. Yeah. Almost every country around the world, you just have corrupt court systems, and you can't.
Because government is corruption. Yeah, you can't have government without corruption. It is corruption. It is coercion.
I think that they would love our level of corruption in most countries. I mean, they just have non-functional justice in those places, whereas we have this sort of roll of the dice thing. In Honduras, for instance, in many cases, it's just how much you paid.
Right. Yeah.
And here it's how much you paid to the lawyers.
Right.
Right.
So it's how much you paid, no matter where you go.
Yeah. Well, it's paid to different people though. So anyway.
Freedom at a price.
Well, and the thing is that we now exist in a time where the bureaucracy, whatever useful function it had, we can make these, lightning rocks do for us. Like, we can outsource all of the bullshit that was taking up human behavior that could have been productive. We can now just make the computers do that for us and be absolutely certain that it got done. And if you want to dig into it, we have a permanent like the time chain, I think is a much better word than blockchain. And that's really the essence of the new technology. We have, just like time doesn't go backward, we now have a thing that only goes forward and keeps a record.
The blockchain certainly is a great technology, and I believe that it'll be implemented. It's just that many of us in the Bitcoin world, we just think that the world's going to change a lot faster than it is. And I think that the blockchain is important the way the internet is important, but let's not forget, I was reading about the internet and exploring the ideas of the internet in 1992.
Right. Yeah.
And it existed for a decade before that.
Right.
And, it took a while to get up. And I believe we really did give it a jump start. I believe we really pushed it forward. But I think about And I got
Free
online.
Talk Live was fucking pioneers, man.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I meant we, the Bitcoin people, really pushed blockchain technology forward.
definitely.
Or time chain technology. I do like that better. I agree with your rebranding.
Much better explanation. Yeah, it's more accurate.
But I mean, I got on the internet in 1998, and I realize I'm probably late in this particular crew. But I had a little something holding me up.
Yeah. Well, I took a little break too. So like I learned a little bit of computers, but then I decided to roam the country like Kane from Kung Fu for some time. And so I didn't even own a computer again until I moved to Seattle. So like probably 98 was, when I like first bought my first home computer.
But there really wasn't much to the internet in 1998.
Right. Yeah.
It was, people had websites, but as far as buying and selling, Amazon was coming around at that time frame, but they were just selling books.
Right.
And, I would rather go to Books A Million at the time. There's a chance I could meet a girl that can read there, that can buy a cup of coffee and I can hang out and show what book I'm reading.
Yeah. But then the flippening happened, and it went from the internet running over the existing phone line networks to the internet running over the fiber optic networks. And so that gave you the increased capacity and speed that allowed the internet to really blow up.
And then they ended up having to run the phone over the internet instead.
Right.
And add the tone just so you would know that they were still there. And just like those copper wires, here's your tone.
Comfort tone, a little going on in the background.
Yeah, the little hiss.
So I see like the blockchain to me right now, Bitcoin, everything that surrounds the time chain, whatever you want to call it, to me right now is in sort of 1998. Like it's there, it exists, but it's running over the current infrastructure. Read banking, government, right?
Yep.
So it's running over the current infrastructure that exists. We talked last week a bit about how it's seeping into the cracks and changing things because it's going to flip at some point. Everything else is going to run on the blockchain, right? Governments are going to run on the government services and products if those can be, considered a thing. Whatever governments do can be, run on the blockchain. Bureaucracy itself, officially licensing anything, titles, contracts, all that stuff, it literally replaces bureaucracy. But that hasn't happened yet because we have to get to a point where it like speeds up and blows up. And that's just development. It's just enough people have to get involved in developing this technology.
I think that any chance we had to have a deflationary currency, i.e. Bitcoin, on a global scale was killed during World War Geek. The Bitcoiners.
World War Geek?
Yeah, that was when, basically BCH came about.
The forking?
Yeah, beforehand, they're arguing, over block size and that kind of thing. And then, the CIA takes over Blockstream and says, no, we're going to do whatever it is to kill this thing off. And I think they were successful. And they got lots of people to make arguments in this way or that way. But, ultimately, I believe that it died during that. And now we will have a cryptocurrency, whatever that means, but it may very well be a central bank cryptocurrency. I think that
those two terms are diametrically opposed.
No, they're not.
So do you think
no, you can have a cryptographically secured centralized currency.
Now, do you think that Bitcoin would have been a monopoly?
What's that?
What's that, nobody?
Do you think that Bitcoin would have been a monopoly?
I think it might have had a chance if they would have just increased the block size by from 1 meg to 2 meg. I think that they would have, the chance of us making it might have had a chance.
So let me run an idea.
I don't think monopolies exist without government to enforce them. So I don't think it ever could have been a monopoly.
Okay, so all I would use as my example is that the closest thing we had to competition to Bitcoin was like Litecoin, and then and that was fine. I like the idea of Bitcoin being gold, Litecoin being silver. The one thing and the other, and using two blockchains.
I think once Litecoin spun itself up, and even Doge for that matter, showing that hey, we can just take this and tweak it and make it a different flavor of the same thing.
And privacy coins were certainly needed.
Yeah, I think the rest.
And once you have
inevitable.
once you have privacy coins plus Litecoin plus Dogecoin plus Bitcoin, then you have to have a coin which serves as a place to trade between them.
Sure.
So I don't think it was ever ever possible to have a single currency. And this is putting aside the issue that no single currency could carry every transaction on Earth, but all of them combined can.
Well, so here's what my point would be on this is that either you are going to have a deflationary currency, which would require basically a monopoly, right? And I'm not saying that it could have happened.
I don't know that it would require a monopoly, but go on.
Well, I do, and I'll make my point. So if you create this universal coin, right, or whatever it is, the swap coin. The swap coin allows you to use basically any coin and then swap it to some other coin through the same wallets without a lot of friction. Right. It just makes it all easier. Well, great. Then I'm creating Mark coin, you're creating Captain coin, he's creating Peakless coin, and everybody's creating coin after coin after coin. Well, now you don't have a deflationary currency anymore. Now you have a functionally an expanding inflationary currency.
Well, hold on. So now that actually depends. So for example, if I was going to make my own, I'm going to fork Bitcoin, say, at this point, and it's going to be my own little token here. Okay. The only reason that I would want to do that I would expect any real success with that is I have a set of people who they like the idea of using this will be our own little separate coin. So, I mean, great, wonderful.
Well, the killer,
have a little tribal coin that you can also convert into the intertribal coin.
The killer app when it comes to cryptocurrency is creating your own money.
Right.
Why are banks rich? Because they make their own money.
Right.
Anybody who's able to pass off in whatever community they have their own currency is going to be rich. They're going to create wealth.
Everybody has that ability.
Yeah, they do.
In which case, it ceases to be an advantage.
Well,
but it neutralizes the advantage of the monopolistic bankers.
Well, what I would say, Rich, is you have to have the influence, you have to have the intelligence, and you have to have the drive. And if you don't have those three things to create the currency, you can have, two of those three, and if you can't put them together, then you don't have something successful. If you have those three things, then you can create this currency, you can pass the scam or whatever. It's not necessarily a scam. I mean, sometimes Free Talk Live is working on its own currency on FTL.fm in order to incentivize people to share the show and a variety of things. Maybe one day we'll roll it out. What's that?
Are they?
Well, I can't say that train is going along at full speed, but as I understand, the infrastructure is there for it, and we're just not,
So I'd like to run this idea past
basically, if everybody issues their own coin, then that coin becomes basically it's issued on your own credit, and so it becomes more or less you're creating your credit rating. And by looking online and seeing who's trying to buy your tokens and who's trying to sell your tokens and at what price, they can more or less determine your personal credit.
Yeah, it's basically like there is a market for gift cards, even though there's money, and it would be comparable in size too. But let me run this by you. So, in order for there to be the internet, we had to have, first we have to add I forget which is first. I think it was TCP/IP, and then HTTP.
TTPS, and then HTTPS, right? Yeah.
Right. So it was a layered system.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't know how exactly this is going to come about, but I think that it is a very strong possibility, and it might be as a matter of side chains because they're so easily mineable. In addition to the reliable store of value that's BTC or whatever else happens to be popular at the time. Or it might be just a layer 2 solution that this is running to be like the clearinghouse. And now on top of that, we will run something that works like Visa and MasterCard to do rapid payments, or as I think will be a very popular thing, anonymity.
I think you're onto something, because I think that adding layers of stuff to things like Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum even, Ethereum is a whole different thing, but I think that is where things are going to go. Blockchain is in its raw form right now, right? Kind of like early internet was in its raw form, and it stumbled through a bunch of things and
like back when there were internets before there was the internet,
right? And so there's going to be a number of things that run on top of and are built on top of the current cryptocurrency universe, if you will, because that's what it is now. It's a universe. 10,000 plus coins that exist now. Is that right?
Most of them are garbage and meaningless, but yeah.
But they're still being developed. Right, that's what I'm saying.
Some are.
The effort hasn't stopped.
Well, that's actually one big part of this. Like, I get a chance to talk to people who are actually in this industry, and like, there's a tremendous amount of investment in the programmers that are.
Well, and that's why I got into Bitcoin to start with. Is I was sitting at a table with. I can't read this. Can you read this while I'm telling my story?
I can.
I don't have my glasses on. I have a bunch of things.
Your glasses.
So I was sitting at. I can't put them on because I have
with the headphones, right?
with the headphones, and it just doesn't work.
Our top-notch production team says food in the fridge. You should have some if you want. It's amazing.
I think she's probably right.
Probably.
She's a good.
It smelled amazing.
I was sitting at a table at the Porcupine Freedom Fest, so one of those picnic tables.
Yeah.
With Roger Ver, Eric Voorhees. So Roger Ver, the guy known as Bitcoin Jesus, and developer of Bitcoin.com.
Voorhees of Simple, or what is it? They bought the other. Oh my gosh!
You think of it,
the swap site, the coin swap site, and like I couldn't get to it in Washington State because they would figure out your IP.
I don't know.
Whatever. Go on.
So Roger Ver, Eric Voorhees, now of Shapeshift.io.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to think of.
Yep. Then Charlie Shrim, widely known in several different projects. First guy to go to jail over Bitcoin.
Yep.
And a man named Ira Walker, who is, a genius on these people's levels, not as widely acclaimed, but so what? And I was listening to these guys talk. I knew I was in the deep end of the pool. I was just dangling my feet in.
Sure,
I wasn't swimming. And I realized in that moment that the smartest, most productive, most driven young men, and I'm not kidding there, like it was 99 to 1, young men in the world are interested in this topic.
Yeah.
And they're only getting more interested. You'd find these young guys running around. They can't take care of themselves hygienically, but they are fucking rabid about Bitcoin.
Right.
And they're going to put life together at some point. And they did. And this has just been going and going. The blockchain just keeps on replicating itself and getting more and more powerful.
TikTok another block.
Right. And it just keeps coming. So that's the reason I got into it. I'm not claiming that Bitcoin's dead. I'm just claiming that I don't think it's going to be the world reserve currency like I thought it was going to be, maybe 5 years ago or something like that.
I'm hoping it's
eliminated in that fight. I would say, is pretty much garbage because, what justifies it having a higher value than BCH when
name recognition
can carry way more transactions.
I'm glad you asked because I formulated exactly what this is. So there's actually a great little visualization of like billiard ball comes in and here's one that goes down the tube where you can see like the processing of BTC and BCH. And with BTC, it's like a big old bunch of billiard balls that are all stuck there. And it's like, it's like a clogged drain.
Yeah.
And I had to think about this for a good long time because, obviously their priorities aren't making payments. And I had to think like, why is this? Why is this what people want? And it dawned on me. People want an anal retentive banker. Like the whole thing is proving that this isn't bullshit. Proving that this is actually a way to keep track of things that they won't get lost. So right now, what the people want is for it to be slow and careful and not process very quickly. Because people are terrified of change, and this is already moving too fast for them ananyway.
Right.
I would agree they're terrified of change.
I completely disagree. I think the reason that Bitcoin BTC and ETH are the two most highly valued coins are because those are the ones that are controlled by the Federal Reserve, the ones that they have pumped a lot of money into, and the ones that they want you using because they have already co-opted them.
Interesting.
I would agree on ETH, but I think you're completely off base on BTC.
So how does Blockstream refusing to scale it to the point where it's useful as a currency not completely invalidate BTC?
Hey, nobody, we've got to take a break. We're about 5 minutes past the break time. So we're going to do that right now. We'll be back in like 10 minutes.
I'm going to bed.
The answer to
I'm
your
feeling
question.
like
Thank you
hell,
for sitting
so
in
I'm
the-
not going to be back.
Okay, well, good night to Mark.
But I
then.
will
Thank
meet you out on the porch in a few minutes.
All right.
All right, good night to you, nobody, as well. Thank you for joining us. And to take us into the break, I've queued up some fun music, of course. Let's see what we have. What did I do? Oh, yeah, I did this one. Here we go.
Thank you, Mark.
I hate the government for what they take and what they represent. I hate the government. Our money's
Come undone, now we'll try to stay
the fuck? Who the hell put this crap on? That's you, Mick Donna. 1 billion served. Beard Talk Live. Who the fuck is this?
Zephin.
Zephin, how the fuck are you?
I'm doing pretty fucking good. How about you guys?
I'm all right. We just got back from our mid-show break, and I'm sorry to say that Mick Donna was playing. That's, my nickname for Madonna. Usually I leave folks on the break with, some metal or some rock or something, and I did so, but somehow, well, the internet just decided it knew better. So I apologize to our listeners for, having to endure Madonna. Now, if you like Madonna, then you're welcome, but,
On hold, I mostly was listening to The Onion and, a couple other programs. One was this guy talking about Pearl Harbor, and it was just, so boring. I feel like there's such interesting ways to talk about what happened at Pearl Harbor, but he was just not doing it.
He was not interesting with it?
No. Nope, not at all.
So we're down Peakless Mountaineer. He'll be back in just a minute, but Mark has gone as well, and nobody has taken the rest of the night off. So for the moment, Zephin, it's you and I.
Nice. Well, have you been keeping up with the Crypto 6 trial?
I've been trying. I've been reading The Penguin. He's been writing for freekeen.com. And if folks want to read up on that, he's been, as much as he can, taking notes and then transcribing that later on, in the evening and posting it up there. So I've been keeping tabs that way. Of course, I'm in the studio, so I'm talking to these folks, on occasion as well. And, just trying to stay on top of what's going on with the trial. We talked about it a bit earlier in the show, as far because Mark was here to give his perspective on sort of how things were going. So yes, to answer your question.
Yeah, I've been trying to go every day, for at least some of the day. I mean, there's law school finals, but I just find it really interesting that the prosecution decided to bring the case at all, because I don't think this is going the way that they planned at all. Seriously, I mean,
I actually hope so, because
they bring up, it just makes them look more corrupt, and it makes him look less bad than how they were portraying him at the beginning, because they were basically trying to make him sound like he was teaming up with scammers.
He's like Al Capone of the cryptocurrency world. That's what they're trying to make him
they
look
are.
like,
Well, and hold on. So, like I was saying in the show, it seemed to me, earlier in this show, it seemed to me like they just didn't alter their argument. Like a bunch of charges got dropped, and they just didn't bother to change the story. They were geared to tell a conspiracy story.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and the whole story, is contingent on the fact that it's he's a scammer, and, he teams up with scammers to, take these old ladies' money. But then their witness that they brought up the other day, he was, a Postal Service investigator. He talked about, a old lady that was sending $4,000 in the mail.
Mm-hmm.
And she sent him candy in the mail with the $4,000 to buy Bitcoin. And it's oh my God, you're making him sound way too freaking easy to sympathize with, because it's this old lady is sending him, candy for
it's like
Bitcoin
a tip, like a
and,
thank
getting
you.
It back.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's and he admits that she never filed a complaint against him by the Postal Service. So he straight up admitted that. So it's no, they are just shitting the bed left and right. And it's wild that they're even trying to continue to bring the case. And their whole argument is contingent, I think, on the fact that the federal government doesn't believe you have a right to privacy. Right. And
yes.
They don't know what state they're in, because in New Hampshire we voted on an amendment for privacy, and it passed with 80%. So they're just fucking clueless about this state.
Well, and I hope so. I hope that this reveals to at least everybody who attends and those who read up on it, because there is no public stream, so the only way for you to see this go down, and I think that's another reason why they're not allowing, is that it's because they kind of know that they're going to look like dicks, right? That they're like, we stepped on our dicks here on this one. But because Ian didn't take a plea deal, right, now they have to go through with the trial, of course, and so now they have to show their hand. I think they bluffed. I think they gambled when they raided the studios and the other places, on the events of the Crypto 6 on that day.
They're atrophied. No one's ever challenged them. Like, they've never had to run for a meal in their life. Like, no one fights things.
I think they gambled and thought that they were going to find something that made some evidence that made Ian out to be the scammer they claim he is, and they found jack shit.
Yeah, they kind of choked on their own propaganda. They're like, well, of course we wouldn't have 50 bajillion charges against someone who's completely innocent of everything.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, we have 50 bajillion charges against someone who's completely innocent of everything. After years of watching him.
Go ahead,
It's funny that you mentioned that because, in New Hampshire, there actually hasn't been a criminal case brought to trial in over 2 years. Ian is the first criminal case in federal court to be brought in over 2 years. So I really don't think that they expected him to take it all the way through. And I think that now that they are, they're like, oh fuck, like we did not plan for this contingency. And so it's being like put on full display right here. Like the woman that did the opening argument, in my opinion, just seemed like a complete noob, like
oh my god,
know,
right?
Like
the presentation was just terrible.
Oral argument. Yeah, it was like her first oral argument ever. 50, who's Ian's attorney just comes up, like clocks her, and it's like a 6-person team against 50, and it's it's just pitiful. He's like just destroying all of them. Like, I don't know if like I'm just too optimistic. Like, I'm gonna be pretty upset if like after all this happens, the jury just ends up being like, oh, well, he's guilty.
I am more cautiously optimistic.
I hope they're doing a good job of educating the jury.
Oh yeah, no, they are.
Because
they like went deep into crypto and like what it is.
Right, but do you get a sense that they actually understood, the basis? Do you get a sense that they get? Because like a lot of people still don't get sort of the basics of cryptocurrency, its decentralized nature, the basics that to us, it's like a no-brainer. We all know
right.
But like to a jury that's and that to me could be like we're all libertarian anarchists, free market people, right? And so we have these ideas and we try to live them, and they're at the top of our minds all the time. And like if the jury is sort of regular people, like there might be a knowledge hurdle for them there, and so that might make the state's case where they just sort of paint them in a dark way. You're a sinister man. Shame on you. You should go to jail for something, right? That might give it some legs. So I like what I've been hearing, right, which is like your account right now, Zephan, and also some other people's accounts of like how the proceedings went. But I'm optimistic, but cautiously.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's totally fair. But like, it's hard to read their minds in terms of like if they're understanding it or not, because unfortunately, the government still requires the religious mandate that everyone has to wear a mask. So you can't really like look at their facial expressions and actually see how they're reacting to the information.
Have there been any human? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
I was.
If you're. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, my bad.
Zephan, you were on something.
There's a little bit of a delay. Huh?
Zephan, go ahead.
Oh, all right. If you were in the room, forced to be in the room with the untouchables, the ones that had religious reasons for not wearing the masks, then it's even harder to see their faces anyway, because most of the time the camera that's in the overflow room that videotapes the courtroom doesn't even show the jury, so it's pretty challenging.
I have questions since you've been there. One camera, does it show the attorneys?
Usually just their backs, unless they're like facing towards the jury.
Right, so the camera angle that everybody in the separate kiddie table room with no masks on is seeing is like a camera on a tripod somewhere behind the two attorneys?
Correct. It's stationary, but like it zooms in sometimes.
Okay.
But most of the time, it just stays in the same spot.
So there seems to be an operator of some sort operating the camera from time to time, at least.
Yeah, nothing like dedicated or anything.
Okay. Now, have you been in the main room wearing the mask, or have you been in the kiddie table room with the no mask?
My religion says that I cannot wear a mask for religious or any other purpose, so
Right.
I just haven't been going in at all, and I've actually been the one person most days to be preserving that right in the overflow room, because like everyone else, I guess, doesn't have the same religious mandates as I do, which is fine. Like I'd prefer that there were people in there supporting him, but like I almost think that they're going to try to do like a 9/11 thing again, where like if we don't continue to like push the envelope in terms of like fighting the biomedical state, even now, we could just lose that right forever. Like
Hold on.
it's really disheartening.
I have more questions about the trial situation.
Oh yeah, sure.
So you're in the other room. You're seeing this. Is it a regular television? Is it a flat screen television?
It's several flat screen televisions. So there's one that's on the right of the courtroom, which like is the easiest to see.
Yeah.
And then there's another that's like across the room, like completely in the opposite direction. And then there's some on the walls.
Okay.
So I think it's meant to be like an overflow room for watching trials. I mean,
sure.
It still had the setup to like hold trials in it itself.
Yeah.
So
was the audio coming out of the TVs, or was it coming from like overhead speakers in the ceiling? Was there a set of speakers in the room?
It had overhead speakers. The acoustics are actually pretty good. Like, the main thing that goes wrong is that sometimes the stream just like instantly goes out, and like they have to call IT, and like that happens like once or twice a day.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine how poorly run a government IT department is.
No, it's one guy, and he's actually a really nice guy.
It's one guy,
and he's like, yeah, like that's what it seems like every time he like comes running in, turning on the turning the stream back on.
He's just like the AV guy.
Well, it's a federal court, but it's still a New Hampshire federal court.
So have you seen or heard anything like this? Some sort of a thing is said by, whoever, is talking at the time. And have you heard like a collective reaction from everybody in the room? And I'm talking about the people sitting, spectating, as well as the jury. Like if something funny happens, has the jury laughed?
Yeah, so no, not the jury. Once there was a person that was the lead FBI investigator on Ian's case, who, by the way, looked completely clueless on how her own operation went, because she was asked a bunch of questions and couldn't answer them, which looked rather incompetent in my opinion. But she said, I know that I only work with the most upstanding of people, like in terms of like the federal agents, and like the whole Free Stater section of the audience, like basically like erupted in like some spontaneous laughter.
So it's like a laugh track on a sitcom.
Yeah, but that really pissed off the judge. The judge was like, if anyone does that again, that'll be the last time they do it.
It's going to happen again.
I mean, the thing about genuine laughter is it's spontaneous.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Exhibit A, the difference between clapter. Like, it's a joke, but we can't laugh at it because it's not fucking funny. So we clap because, yes, I agree with the political statement you just made in the form of a joke.
There's a reason that I ask you these questions, though, because, like, to me, I think it's important that if laughter like that does erupt spontaneously from the people there in support of Ian, it would mean more to me to know whether or not the jurors laughed as well.
Well, it was hard to tell. It didn't seem like it. And so I actually told them after, I'm like, hey guys, like, I don't want this to look bad for Ian. You guys aren't taking this seriously. Like, if you guys want, to laugh or yell at the screen or whatever, just join me in the other room. Because when that happened, I laughed so hard and shouted. I'm like, no, you fucking aren't. Like, no, you fucking don't. You don't work with the nicest people. And I literally said that in a federal courtroom, but it was an empty one.
Right. Yeah.
And they could have done it, but like, it. I just don't think it's tactically a good idea.
Yeah.
Like it's Ian's freedom on the line. He could literally be in prison for 40 years if we're not careful.
Well,
yeah, you don't want somebody in there, and then like the attorneys for the what do you call them, the prosecution?
Mm-hmm.
They go up there and say something, and then you get somebody like, "That's bullshit, man!" Like coming out of the back of theirs.
Obviously, the very last thing they want. Now, I mean,
It
is the other side of that coin, though. Like, as we hit the nail on the head, it is a privacy trial. Like, that's privacy is what's on trial here. Yeah. Which, okay, well, the other coin of that is like, maybe the government isn't the best moral arbiter because they're spying on people who have a right not to be spied on. Like, we did actually just have this conversation. Like, we did the whole ballot thing and everything, and I was very proud.
80%. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it could get a higher percentage in any other state. If I'm going to be completely honest, like, I don't know if that many people in either the hyper liberal California who forces people that bought guns to share their addresses and personal information with scholars, or in conservative Texas that allows for doctors to have bounties put on their heads for performing abortions. Nobody gives a shit about privacy in anywhere except a principled place like New Hampshire. And even then, I can't believe it only got 80%.
At least we'll pay lip service to it anyway. And I mean, that's in theory what the whole thing was supposed to simulate is like, okay, here's a sampling of the people around here. Do any of you see privacy as something we actually have a right to? Like, was any of you serious when, I mean, odds are most of you voted for this. Was any of you serious when you did that? Yeah. Like, did you mean it when you said, no, we have a right to our own, and like, this is it. This is the information war. Like, is this my information or isn't it?
Yep. Well, I mean, on that similar note, the federal prosecutors accidentally had their own witnesses admit that Ian hadn't broke any New Hampshire state laws.
Really?
So I mean, they clarified, they're like, oh, these are all federal charges or whatever, but in my opinion, I think that New Hampshire, your average New Hampshire citizen does not have a favorable view of DC. I've talked to even liberals about this, and they're like, oh yeah, no, if DC was run like New Hampshire, it would be so much better.
DC's a shithole.
Right.
Well, I think Sisti said it in the opening statements. It's a question of the possibility of just because the government said it doesn't mean it's true. Yeah. Now, if you can handle that, if you can forego the cognitive dissonance and just go, government lies to us sometimes because we all are witness of all the fucking wars that we're in now because the government has been lying to us for generations now, provably, obviously. Okay, can you admit to yourself that happens?
Well, just on that note, for anybody listening that doesn't know, Monday is we'll call it the closest thing to an official protest after court at 5 p.m. In front of the court. All that information.
Oh, it's Monday now?
Yeah, well, that's the information up on thecrypto6.com, is that it's Monday, Monday the 12th.
Someone told me it was Tuesday. That's good.
If that changes, I mean, that I didn't browse it just now, but it was there earlier this morning as the date. I took a screenshot of it myself to send to somebody else.
Yeah, Monday, 5 p.m.
But, I mean, come any day. I issued a challenge to anybody that has ever, been supported by Ian. Had them on the radio, let them be on the show, promote their product or their service or, their, YouTube channel, whatever it is. Any of their freedom-oriented businesses, any of their activism. If you've been helped by Ian Freeman in any way, show up. It doesn't necessarily have to be Monday. That's probably going to be the big one, I think. But any day that this trial is going on, book an Uber, grab a flight, come out and just show up, because he supported you when you wanted something and you shared, the values of freedom. Like, come and show your respect, because he's facing a lot of time, and I think a show of people can only benefit the community. It would be great for New Hampshire to, show off, if you will, the number of freedom-oriented individuals that have support for Ian Freeman.
I actually really like that sentiment, but, just on a lighter note, could you imagine if Sarah came over here and, came to court to support Ian? No one's provided her a bigger platform than Ian, in my opinion. Everyone else has basically kicked her off from being able to call, but he continues to, let her call every day, even though it's usually about the same thing. She's worse than Dave. She's getting worse than David, I think.
It is called Free Talk Live for a reason, and so it's got to be consistent.
I have a perverse treasuring of my time with Sarah, because only every now and again do I get to actually question a socialist in things.
Yeah, that's true. She's had some pretty good moments. I mean, I think you could probably go back and edit together a pretty good reel of Sarah.
Yeah.
She might not enjoy it, but we would.
I bet at this point, someone could make a Sarah the ANCAP, edit, where she's literally just
we could do Sarah versus Sarah.
Sarah the ANCAP versus Sarah the communist?
Yeah.
Where she takes both sides of her own issues?
Yeah. She's well, it is a capitalist system, and she's oh yeah, and I have my little business that I do, my multi-marketing business, and you can tell a part of her wants to be productive and not a leech off society, but there's another strong part of her personality that is a statist. I mean, and she does say that she's bipolar, so I wonder if that's sort of at play.
I think she's trying to deal with simultaneously. She is incapable of providing for anyone, of nourishing anyone, and she has a deep, deep desire to do so. So the way that she processes that is well, I can vote and I can tell people about socialism, so then they can vote, and then we'll feed more of the hungry. Which, when you don't have anyone to direct that directly to, if you're not part of a community, or at least a family, you don't have anyone to give that nurturing instinct to.
In a lot of ways, our callers are a cross-section, I think, of society today. And, it's reflective of what exists currently. Now, is it an accurate? I don't know, but it's a cross-section anyway. And in order to be Free Talk Live, I think, we maintain that. And that, of course, was, the OG vision of Free Talk Live.
It may not be a good sample, but it's every single one a facet of our society where it's at right now.
So I don't want to diverge back up too much, but I did want to talk a little bit more about the artistic stuff. So the last day of court to just happen, they brought in an IRS agent that was basically being a plant, trying to gather intel from Ian, and he talked about how he did $3,000, $5,000, another $5,000, and $11,000 and more of individual Bitcoin purchases. And I'm just sitting here how much Bitcoin does the federal government have exactly at this point? What do they do? Once they've purchased all this stuff,
they're hodlers. They're hodlers.
So for one thing, they use it in operations because hold on. So you do hear about these stories where, we recovered half of the Bitcoin. Did you now? There's literally only one way to recover any amount of Bitcoin. You have to have the seed phrase or the wallet code. So that means it was you. It was you being that guy. Like the FBI always does with the new terrorists.
You think they're skimming off the top?
No. I'm saying they are using this in their operations of entrapment.
Oh, yeah. of course they are.
I mean, the dude is just a creep too. Like, so on Christmas Day, instead of spending time with his own family, he texted Ian and wished him a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Like, what a fucking creep. Like, you're a federal investigator and you're like reaching out to this guy on Christmas instead of hanging out with it just was disgusting. Like, these people like don't have any souls, it seems like. It's almost like they're actors, but like in a way that is manipulative and evil and like just terrorizes innocent people. It's just, it's so disgusting to actually like see these people like in person, because
I got a job to do, and that job is to get you coercively abducted into a minor torture chamber. That's what I do for a living.
I'm sorry. I'm still thinking about all the attendees laughing at the prosecutor. I wish I could have been there for that. I certainly missed out. But I'm with you. Like I wouldn't want some overzealous libertarian types to like create a hostile environment or anything that's gonna take away from Ian's chances at winning this thing. So
hey, if you join me in the Freedom Room, we can laugh at him as much as we want.
I mean, I do that when I'm not in there anyway, so I'm actually resistant to going in at all. But I will.
It is reminiscent of the free speech zones that they would allow for, like, Obama was visiting Denver, and if you want to go into this fenced off area, that's where you're allowed to protest.
And also like the no phones thing, so you can't like take a selfie of yourself in there,
well, we can't have you recording this. This is about our recordings. We will decide what to omit.
It's just more that like anybody else except them could probably do a much better job of recording it and broadcasting it.
Oh yeah.
Well, they have the infrastructure already to broadcast.
Of course they do.
But they
don't have the fucking inclination.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the fact that they can do it into the spare room shows that they have the capability to just stream it and put it online. So, like, the only reason that they're not is because they don't want transparency, because they don't want the jury to like, look back on it or something. Like, it has something to do with the jury.
Get this.
That's their excuse.
COVID was the reason that forced government to, speed up their technological curve and get the fuck online, right, with their meetings and stuff. And then they started having the trials and like even Ian's hearings, his bail hearings and stuff, we got to sit and watch on a laptop computer because they were like, well, we got to have it public in some way, right, if we're not going to let people in the door. And so now they let people in the door, but then they bring back the COVID restrictions, so they get the fucking best of both goddamn worlds.
You mean the worst of both?
Well, but they're on the winning end because now, like, they did put in all the infrastructure to get everything online, but now because you can show up, but you have to wear a mask or go at the kiddie table, right? We're not going to broadcast it online because you can sort of be there in person if you follow our stupid rules, which it's dumb.
I don't want to be like self-centered or anything, because obviously this is all about Ian, and like that's why I'm there, and that's obviously why everyone else is there. But like the fact that like a federal court is like the only place on earth where you still have to wear a mask is just fucking mind-boggling to me. Like, well, I've never been
can I lay a black pill on you?
Sure.
So something dawned on me. When an animal sees, like, they've done the experiment on, I believe it was ducklings, that if the first thing they ever see in their life is a ping pong ball, they will bond to the ping pong ball. They will seek the ping pong ball for comfort when things are scary, and ultimately attempt to copulate with a ping pong ball.
I do that with beer.
Now,
I'm just kidding.
The mother and father, if they happen to be around, of an entire subsection of humanity, have no face. They have a replicable mask instead of a face.
Yeah.
So, like, holy shit, you literally gave the government your face for these children who just got born into a world where mom and dad, of course, their face looks like mask.
Yep.
So everyone who comes to me with the mask face is my parent.
Yeah, it's pretty scary, the world that they've created. But But I mean, there is like a weird upside to it because the court provides a check on this rule, which is that like if all of the jury members all agree that they don't want to wear masks, then the courtroom could become a mask optional room. So I guess it's like, you know, like they're still trying to keep the system of checks and balances there. But like they allow for one person to infringe on the right of everyone else. So it's almost like democracy, but like the worst, you know, the worst part of it. Like instead of the majority oppressing the minority, it's the minority oppressing the majority, which, you know, still obviously isn't ideal.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had more to say?
Oh, did I?
Oh. Zephin, on to the next thing.
All right. So let's see. There were other things that were on the list of things to happen.
The only thing I had to say is like, okay, there's a straight up fucking sci-fi element of like, remember E.T. and the radioactive suit people?
Yes.
And like a lot of the footage coming out of China right now of the people who are, you know, wiring the doors shut, where they've got these like, you know, hazmat suits, and of course, no face.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. I have seen a meme recently that has a scary sort of a feel to it. It's, you know, the Chinese enforcers all wearing the white suits, and there's, I don't know, 100 of them or something in a parking lot, and then you know, split screen on the other side is about the same number of stormtroopers from Star Wars standing around in a parking lot. And like they kind of look similar from the distance of the meme, you know. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, it's just so fitting that if you see a police officer walk down the street, you know, you just start playing the Imperial March, you know, dun 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 dun.
Oh gosh, yeah. If only we could heckle the court. Like I would so love to heckle the court while it's carrying on. I have
if only the court had a sense of humor. See, now that's something I would demand if we actually had a market in them.
I will only attend court that I can heckle.
Fucking A, man.
So
I have a right.
There's something interesting that happened on day 3. That's when they were showing a lot of the videos and stuff, like of the actual raid taking place.
Yeah.
And on that day, like it showed 6 to 7 heavily armed SWAT team people. Like as they were entering, they ripped down Ian's peace flag.
The peace sign. Yep, I've seen that footage a bazillion times.
In front of the house.
Yep.
Yeah. And then like they destroyed the camera. You know,
several
like
of them.
The security camera.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And they showed all of that. And like, I think it just made them look like complete crap. Because Sissy was like cross-examining them, like the lead FBI investigator basically grilling her on this, and she couldn't excuse any of it because like she was like, oh, that was the SWAT team. I wasn't in charge of it. I was like just in charge of the FBI operation, right. Even though she's where the buck stops. Like it was basically her operation.
Yeah.
And so.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought this was yours.
Looks real bad.
Did you not take lead on this operation?
Right.
And you decided that it would be great to sign off on having a whole shit ton of alphabet agencies all at once. So that means you need to coordinate a bunch of agencies.
Like we all know that the government is going to do their job poorly because they're the government, right? It's impossible for them to do their job, efficiently and well if other than killing and taking people's money. That's what they do efficiently and well.
And everywhere where they even dip their toe in the free market, where they perform a service, but you're allowed to do it too, they always get paid a hell of a lot more for worse service.
Yep.
So,
well, I mean, they're thieves. What do you expect? Like,
right.
Thieves make out like bandits. That's why it's called that.
So if you're kind of incompetent, it's a great place to go because you're going to get paid double what you're worth.
And fail upward.
Yeah.
I want to segue for just a minute because I have a story, and it won't take long, but it is about a bearded person. This from WMUR. Shave it or save it. Man spends 5 years growing beard for Children's Hospital. This is out of Doswell, Virginia. A Virginia man has been growing his beard for 5 years in a mission to raise money for kids in need. Brian Thompson is auctioning off the decision to cut or keep his 23 inches of facial hair in an online fundraiser for Children's Hospital of Richmond. His inspiration for the Shave It or Save It fundraiser comes from his own child as he works to instill in his son a love for helping others. Thompson said, just to teach my son, hey, one person can make a huge difference. And that's kind of what I want to really portray to him. Voting for the Shave It or Save It fundraiser ends on December 16th. So there's, I'll throw this up on the Free Talk Live social media. I just thought this was a kick-ass idea. It involved a bearded man, and sometimes people feel helpless. They feel like there's nothing that they can do, or they don't know how to contribute, something along those lines. And this type of a thing, in my opinion, is something that didn't cost this guy anything. Right? It's like, hey, I'm auctioning off, you know, my locks of gold, if you will, right? However long it took him to grow his giant fucking beard. And he's like, I'm going to auction this off because I already have it. And so it doesn't cost me a dime, and here's something that I can do.
Yeah, like we have free access to a global audience.
Yeah.
I mean, roughly free access to a global audience. Yeah. That means like we are like this is just one of the first examples of this is going to pop off just like movie popcorn, and it's just going to be people creating new jobs as they come along. Because I mean, you heard the they call it AI technology, but it's algorithm sort of technology.
Yeah.
You've heard like where that is. Okay, so we're going to be using things like that to create all sorts of works of art and programming, and things will just occur to us.
Well, and I'd like to see a time when infrastructure is on a case-by-case basis, right? For example, there's no need for there to be Department of the Roads for any city or state or anything like that, because if there's a road, it's been put together voluntarily by people who wanted to put it there, and they will either maintain it or somebody who believes that the road is still valuable and is worthy of saving, repairing, rebuilding, whatever, will champion for it, right? This is what's missing from today's society. If somebody identifies a problem in society and they want to like champion for the cause, whatever cause that is, there's only a couple of ways to do it. And the most popular one, of course, is try to get the government to do it for you. Right? Instead of somebody taking it on as like their personal mission right now to like organize the businesses that need that road built, or the people who live on either side of it, get together, right? Organize that, communicate with everybody, figure out how much, start some sort of a GoFundMe campaign, right? Market it, right? State your case to why you need the money, how much money you need to get it done, and then that's how shit gets done, right? You don't need a department to just sort of oversee it where you're stealing money from people year after year. No.
None of this requires coercion.
Right. These projects get done on sort of an as-needed basis, you know, maintenance included and all that kind of stuff. But it's done by people who value the thing rather than by, you know, a department that just hits everybody over the head with a hammer no matter who you are.
Well, and one of the big dividing points among libertarians is the border thing. But the reason a lot of us want borders right now is because of the welfare. Okay, well, if you don't want the government doing welfare, do welfare. Like, if you provide it, people won't need to marry the government.
We've talked a little bit about analogies to, like, telephone service, right? And so I just want to say that for the same reasons that Ma Bell was broke up, because those of us my age know that there used to be just a phone company. And Ma Bell was broken up because, oh, look, a monopoly over something. That shouldn't be, right? That used to be an American value, at least when I was growing up. And so Ma Bell broke up. And so for the same reasons that Ma Bell broke up, I think roads should be broken up. Right. There shouldn't be government should have no control over roads at all, and it should be immediately turned over to anybody who thinks of a good idea on how to run roads.
Yeah.
So going on to one of the points that you said earlier, I almost don't blame people at this point for turning to the government to solve things, because at this point, if you try to fix the road, let alone even build one, like if there's a pothole to fill up, it's illegal.
Yeah.
Like you literally cannot.
And there's no one to ask.
Way and volitionally fix things.
Right.
Like you can't just call up and say, "Hey, I'm gonna fix this," okay?
Yeah. Well, and we've done stories about like a guy who saw that people were having trouble like crossing a park, and so he built like a stairway for the park. Took him like an afternoon on a Saturday. He paid for the materials, and it cost him $600 or something. It was something small, and it was sturdy. But the city, of course, came in and tore it down and replaced it with a much shittier version.
Mm-hmm.
That was done with their contractors that cost $5,000, $10,000, something like that.
Hey, that was going to be our boondoggle. You can't just go being efficient.
So,
well, this is actually a major motivator that I have behind wanting to become an attorney. Is that like I think that there are a lot of real productive people in this world that are being blocked from being productive by the government.
You're spot on, sir.
And, yeah, and
it is our entire global situation.
It restricts initiative.
It feels very unproductive that I'm basically having to untie all of these knots that the government created, but like for example, with immigration, that's the law that I want to specialize in. There's literally thousands of people that, like, if they heard about the Free State Project, like in Hong Kong or in Venezuela or in Cuba, like they would all flood here and just make it like such an economic boom, like hub essentially.
Yeah.
And I want to be a part of removing those barriers to help them get here and help make New Hampshire an even greater place than it currently is. I want it to become like a beacon.
So the historical analogy that comes to my mind about this is so Italy had city-states at one point, and it was the Italian Renaissance preceded the rest of Europe's Renaissance. So like they unearthed a whole bunch of like old Roman texts and art and all of that, and a big part of it is they had these city-states, and wouldn't you know it, city-states tended to get run by the merchants at some point or another. So you ended up with Venice. This is actually where glass came from, which, I mean, we don't usually think about it, but like, holy shit, all of our technology that we use on an everyday basis, that magic box in your pocket, like, it's all glass.
Yeah.
Being able to see each other, like having the vitamin D without the wind. Like, we don't think about it, but this is what happened when you had just people, all these influences coming in together and trading and spying some of the time and trying to one-up each other, and that's how they created clear glass.
Yeah, innovation happens, particularly when there is focused competition.
Yeah.
I mean, to your example, Peakless, I don't even think you have to go back that far. I think you could just look to America. Like, I mean, America's, I think, the best example of that, where you get people of a whole bunch of different backgrounds and like languages and religions and ethnicities and cultures and ideas, and you bring them together to solve problems. And like you just see innovation and creativity and human creations like mankind has never seen. Like I don't think that's I don't think that's by accident. I think that actually is like a natural outgrowth of what happens when you bring people together that have different mindsets on things. And I'm not talking about like political beliefs. Those are fairly irrelevant.
Given that was across like half of a continent, I kind of think that that's closer to what we have ahead of us. Because like, I mean, I could be wrong, and I fully and absolutely believe in free will, so we can certainly derail in all sorts of ways, but the way it seems just inescapably headed to me is that decentralized technology is stronger.
It is.
So that means that these networks are going to be the source of power in the world that we're building now. So the ideas of property are going to be spread throughout the world in a market.
Yeah. There are aspects of blockchain, time chain, whatever you want to call it, that can replace the existing model of things, IP addresses, things related to relaying packet technology, right? Can all be done on the blockchain rather than in the way it's done now through bureaucratic processes, and eventually it will get done through that because it is efficient and it already exists.
Yeah.
Nobody has to go build it. They're like, oh, we could just take this thing we already do, put it up here, and it makes it better. Wow, we should do that. Like eventually even government has to run into that when it comes to like paperwork, bureaucracy stuff, right? Record keeping and all that kind of crap. So it's just going to happen. There's no way it can't happen unless somebody invents
technology
an even better way,
point.
Right? Yeah.
Like the computing technology hit the saturation point that a decentralized power source is greater than any centralized power source.
I think we'll see what you guys are talking about next in elections, because in New Hampshire there was some testing in a couple of towns on some open source vote machines, and I think that's like the gateway drug into having voting happen on the blockchain.
I love it.
Because, like, I mean, I would love to have voting happen on the blockchain because it could still be
obvious.
private. You can have a private key that, like, if you wanted to verify that your vote was adequately counted and that all the responses were put in, you could enter in the private key and view it.
Right.
But, you could be the only one to access that private key, too. And it would make it super easy for recounts. You could basically do it in like 5 seconds. And I mean, the counting of
and
the
every
voting
private
in general
key
would only take 5
can,
seconds.
like every seed phrase can produce an infinite number of private keys. So you could, for every single election, use a different wallet.
Yep.
And we would know absolutely certainly, okay, this was cast from this wallet at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And good luck trying to hack into one of those machines. I mean, like, that would be like somebody trying to hack into Bitcoin. Like, I mean, you'd have to make sure that it is secure like Bitcoin, but like Bitcoin is open. You could literally just probably create a system like this off of Bitcoin. Like, I'm no expert or anything, but like, it seems like it's something fairly simple to do.
Oh, it's an obvious choice for the use. It's an obvious use case for time chain technology to have a permanent record that is also pseudonymous, pseudo-anonymous, because that way you have the best of both worlds. You know that it was definitely only one, and it was somebody you don't know who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the industries known as, this one specifically, gambling, online gambling. I think we will see some technology come out of related to blockchain verification, prize winnings, that kind of a thing. The more that industry grows and adopts cryptocurrency, I think we'll see some things come out of there. I think we're going to see things come out of telephony communications. I think you're going to have voice over blockchain at some point, which will be interesting.
That will.
I mean, in terms of the monetary thing, there are some aspects of online that purely operate off of cryptocurrency. Like, I'd argue that the thing that made the internet super popular was pornography, and Pornhub, the website, completely only runs off of crypto.
So it is only
donations. Yeah, because they've been debanked by Visa and MasterCard, so they have to go down that route.
Point.
Yeah, and I've been calling for that for a long time, because you're right. That is what saved the internet, was pornography.
Yeah.
They came up with a business use case that worked. Oh, weird.
It's also why video technology. It's what has dominated the video technology pretty much as long as it's existed.
Yeah, and sites like Pornhub get used in creative ways. For example, when a really popular movie first comes out and, you get those camera versions or whatever, there's still torrent sites and all that kind of stuff, but people were actually uploading them to Pornhub. So you could just go online and stream it for free.
Yeah, that was one thought I have, because I like to make
Star
plan A,
Wars
plan B,
made it,
plan C, plan D, all the way, as far as I can plan. Like, one of the possibilities is, like, you know, between Pornhub and FetLife, there's always some dirty site that you're allowed to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. So like,
because no one likes to be kink shamed
on these dirty sites. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
that's a good point.
And I have seen an anarchist video on Pornhub, just like a dude talking at a camera about like, here's why government's a stupid idea.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I watch. I mean, I think that probably at this point there's more daily engagement and viewership and stuff on sites like Pornhub than Twitter. You know, like it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, like the first 10 top 10
as if they were mutually exclusive instead of interlaced.
I'm sorry, Zephyr, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if like the top 10 most visited websites were all porn related, and then like, you know, you'd find Facebook and Twitter and Instagram like at number like 50 or you know, maybe 25 if they're lucky. Because I mean, you know, it's something that you know has grappled a hold of humanity since like the inception of it. Arguably, you go back to these old.
Well, this was actually one of the. This was one of the tactics of the Norse. So because you never saw titties and it just wasn't a part of your world, they would specifically go out there and flash the warriors just to remind them what they're fighting for and to like get their juices running, because this is why they're going to stab or get stabbed.
Right.
And that's kind of where cheerleaders came from, was that idea of like, here's something. Like they had like an entire job for that. Like, here, you go like, you know, go get all crazy and then take your clothes off in front of all of our warriors. Thank you.
Well, I'm sure that if you told a cheerleader that now, it'd probably just like gross her out, and you'd probably think that you were lying to her. But I mean, no, I mean, I believe you, and I think that that's definitely true. It just like, it makes you think about, you know, where a lot of our current cultural traditions come from. I think that if you asked a current American when Jesus Christ was born, they would literally tell you December 25th, which like, is so ridiculous to me. But like, you know, it's sort of the story that we're told, you know, growing up. But
so I have a question for both of you guys. A little bit of a segue, but I'm a rock and roll, heavy metal kind of guy, right? And I like to rock out. I like to I like the idea of being a rebel in, you know, many ways, shapes, and forms. And I think that rock and roll, you know, at least was the music of rebels at some point along the way.
Yeah.
And so
devil music.
What I don't see is actual rebels.
Oh my God,
like,
how sad is that,
like,
right?
I know that there's a bunch of us, you know, here in New Hampshire and more on the way, but like that seems like
you're more on the way
for a country that, you know, is supposed to be filled with rock and roll rebels.
I will plug Media Monarchy. They do run a radio station that has like just all anarchist music all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'm glad someone's doing that.
Right.
I played around with doing an internet station like that where I can just whatever that sort of alludes to, you know, libertarian anarchist thoughts, like, you know, throw together playlists and put that up and just spin it 24/7.
Right.
But where
so much
where's the
rebellion?
Where's the rebels in the United States of America? Where are
and
they?
Then they commanded our obedience.
That's my question. Where are the rebels?
Yeah.
Stabbed in the back.
I'm going to make the assertion that it's basically dead everywhere but here. Like there was a time in which it's been dead before and it's made a comeback and a renaissance, which like it very well could, and I think it's going to happen here. But that being said, I think you're right. At the moment, it has very much been killed. Like, and we might see it again. We might not. You know, like I guess only time will tell.
Well, I think that it's the time of choice.
Yeah.
Like everyone's getting the option, and most people do what most people are doing. So, like, it either will or won't. I mean, A, it could split, or B, we could just get a critical mass of people that eventually like just go with the decentralization thing.
Yep.
And the thing about decentralization is it comes with responsibility.
Yeah.
Like you actually have to be with power comes responsibility.
Right, but the reason you want decentralization to drive I want to call it the evolution, not the revolution, but the evolution away from statism.
Right.
The reason that I want that to drive, and the reason I think that everybody else on planet Earth should want that, is because it is a way to change things without a violent, sort of a overthrow and replace, right? Because that's what everybody thinks. Oh, well, if you get rid of the government, what are you going to replace it with? Nothing. There's a way to do it. It's called decentralization.
And I think what they really want to know is...
And it's efficient, it's cheap, it's here. We just need more people developing on it.
So, like, there's two sides of that. One side is who will build the roads, like who will actually perform the services that are currently monopolized.
Yep.
But the deeper question is, but who will be responsible in this world that you want to build?
People who are
the
responsible.
answer is you.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yes.
You will be responsible for you, and that's fucking terrifying.
Can you imagine having something more along the lines of responsibility police? Like, hey, this was the altercation. Were you responsible? Yeah, well, okay. Right? Can you imagine if those were your dispute resolution people? They're not really even police. They're not like armed or whatever. They're just, and you look for, all right, well, whose responsibility was it? Oh, it was mine. Right? If you just sort of, look for where the responsibility was supposed to be instead of where the fault or the infraction against the law or the, whatever the written words are.
And it's the identical question to whose property is this?
Yeah, or who initiated the force.
Right.
Yeah.
So just going back on to something that you said earlier, Captain, I think that the time that that the American standing up to authority really died was after 9/11. After 9/11 happened and the Patriot Act passed and the TSA was rolled out, and the fact that no one stood up to that.
Yeah.
That was.
Well, Ron Paul did.
That was, I think, when it all really died. I mean, if there was a pushback that was equivalent to how people said, no, I'm not wearing masks, or no, I'm going to defy stay-at-home orders. If there was even a pushback that was as small as we saw during COVID, and boy, was it small.
To be fair,
I think that we could have rolled back a lot of stuff.
Well, to be fair, they did have the biggest protests since the 60s. But the fact was, we didn't know what to do about it. And, it would be years before that not knowing what to do about it evolved into a slightly more articulate form of not knowing what to do about it in the, End Wall Street, the Occupy movement.
Occupy,
yeah.
So, I mean,
which, by the way, an anarchist is credited with putting that together.
Nice.
David Graeber. He is an anarchist, although a left-leaning anarchist. I read one of his books, and I saw one of his lectures on debt the first 5,000 years, or money the first I don't know, something about that. It's basically
I think it was debt the first 5,000 years.
So anyway,
very famous book.
Yeah. So he's credited with sort of founding Occupy Wall Street movement. He actually got kicked out of United States universities for his anarchist views and had to go teach over in Europe somewhere at a university over there because, well, he had nowhere else to go. But that's how smart he is. He's a professor of anthropology. Super smart dude. If you ever I don't recommend very many left-leaning anything, but David Graeber is worth a watch. You're gonna see where there's the left part, but everything else that he brings to the table, I think, is worth watching.
And I am all for reaching across the aisle and learning what you can from each other. I do think that leftism works inside a family, and that's it.
Something that could have been done to roll back the war on terror, in my opinion, is something that could have happened throughout history, which was just basic civil disobedience. I mean, if people just approached the TSA lines and they told them to put their stuff in like a little bin and take their shoes off if they just told them no. Like the power of saying no is just so powerful. And unfortunately, if you say no now, it's way less powerful than if you said no then.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 blue shirts, and there's like 100 people in line. Right? Like,
right.
If you just all like stood up to them like, you're fired, go home. You're fired today, go home. If that's all you did, you're fired, go home. What would happen?
Right. Yeah, like all of them. Exactly. And like
but you can't get 100 people to act like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even with civil disobedience back then, like there's the rule of 3.5%, right? Which is that like if 3.5% of a community is actively resisting something, they're likely to win.
Right.
The civil rights movement was actually less than 1%, and they still won. So you wouldn't even have to get like everybody in the room to not comply. You would only, like if it was a room of 100 people, you just have to get 3 or 4 people in the room to not comply.
Yeah, it's weird. A lot of things, and I mean, I do think this is why morality exists, is because it has that long-term thing to it. But like a lot of people can't see what any individual act of resistance is doing. I mean, like, I've certainly criticized 1984 because it doesn't have any fucking solutions.
Yeah.
But that has inspired a lot of anarchists. I mean, like, Justin got inspired as a wacky consequence of someone reading 1984.
You mean Justin O'Donnell?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, 101 Reasons, the book. The novelization.
Yeah.
So a very, very strong activist. So, and it's one of those like, okay, every little action, you never know exactly what that's going to snowball into. So even like I'm very critical of political action, but sometimes you might just slow up the right thing and you never know what it's going to do if that's your way.
Even the smallest actions can result in huge outcomes. Like I have a friend in California who, at the time I knew I was a libertarian, yada, yada. But I wasn't really doing anything about it. And he gave me Ron Paul's End the Fed and the Revolution. And after I read those, I found out about the Free State Project. You know, I got super involved and now I'm out here and, I'm going to law school with a focus on liberty. And, I've reviewed hundreds of bills, soon to be thousands of bills with the MHLA.
Yeah, you certainly have.
And all because that guy gave me a book. Or 2 books, rather, which is in my opinion, is a pretty small act. Those books probably only cost him $20 total.
Well, and if your life path follows the expectation, then you're going to be opening a door for people throughout the world to be around other people who believe in property rights.
Yep.
So how much change is that going to make? Because of 2 books?
Yeah.
A ripple in a pond.
And and who knows what inspired him, before that. Maybe somebody gave him a book.
Right.
Well, that's why I love the idea of broadcast, and I'm also a free speech absolutist, because there's no other way to tell where the people you don't want to be like are. Right? If you don't allow everybody to say their say in a way that's, that they want to say it, then you have no other method to tell where people you don't want to be like are.
Yeah.
And so, reaching people, if we can do that with this particular podcast, Free Talk Live, the help of LRN.FM, then, I don't see any reason why we shouldn't. And in fact, I kind of feel like it's a duty,
Well, and the thing about your rights is if you express them, then you have them.
You must exercise them or somebody else will take them from you.
I mean, we believe in the right of association, so it's time we flexed.
Well, this is why I'm so adamant about, not wearing the mask in federal court, and why I'm at least glad that we had the overflow room, because I don't want to get to the point to where if you want to go to court, you have to engage in their religious ceremony. I feel like one of my jobs is to push, just the very edge of the outer limit of like what's legal, you know, to like retain those rights. Like that's why every time I fly, like, you know, I comply with all of the federal regulations and stuff like that in terms of like locking my firearm, but I do fly with my firearm because I don't want to see a future where like it's become so uncommon to fly with a firearm that they just quietly ban it. And I think that like people should find little things to do like that every day. It could be something like buying something with cryptocurrency.
Yeah, rebel a little bit every day.
Yeah. Or it could just be like if a cop pulls you over, you know, just basically saying like, I don't have to answer questions, you know, or just something basic like that.
And the network technology that we have available to us means that, I mean, you can get on this and broadcast that. And now that one act that you've performed has been magnified and amplified by setting an example so that all of them can, in the back of their mind, remember, yeah, you know, I could rebel just a little bit against the tyrants. Push a little bit on the empire's boot on my neck. And maybe they'll tell someone.
Yeah.
And that'll encourage them to push back on the boot just a little bit. And the way that can snowball with the technology that we have now, like, all we have to do is shine the light on you. I mean, sunlight, it kills the infection. They hate admitting that taxation is theft.
Yeah.
They hate calling a spade a spade. That's their whole power is deception. And they demand that you deceive others.
Yeah.
Or else.
That's the worst part.
Yeah. I mean, Father of the Crypto 6 had to admit to shit they didn't do.
Yeah, it's one thing to like
or else.
To like live your own delusion. It's another thing entirely to force that delusion upon other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned taxation as theft. I just wanted to make a quick side New Hampshire point. So last week was Organization Day at the State House, which is basically where they pick new leadership and things like that. And the New Hampshire Democrats made a bingo sheet of like, you know, everything that you run into. And two of the bingo slots were liberty related. One of them said like, oh, you know, taxation is theft. And then the other one was just liberty. So it just goes to show you how common the liberty sentiment here is in the State House. I don't know any other state in which it would be so common to hear taxation is theft on the main opening day of, you know, of like a government getting into session. Like that's pretty based.
And that's the thing. They obviously work very hard to maintain people's perceptions. So if we can tweak that, if we can change that culture, if we can seed these ideas,
yeah,
it can.
And
crack
I don't
through.
think I don't think there's actually been any political ramifications for any state rep who has said it, because I think at least 5 or 6 state reps in the past have said it and like didn't lose their seats like as a result of saying it.
That's awesome.
So,
hey, Zephan,
so, I mean,
it is time for us to end the program for today. Thank you so much for participating, and we appreciate you. You know, maybe we'll talk to you again next week.
Wait.
What?
Did I miss the 7 words?
Yeah, twice.
No, on Zephan.
Oh, Zephan, did you do the 7 words?
Oh, no.
Take us
shit,
out.
Piss, cock. Okay. Shit, piss, cock, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, and tits.
Almost enough.
Almost. Shit, piss, fuck, cunt, cocksucker, motherfucker, tits. Yeah, you left out fuck.
I didn't say fuck.
No, you didn't.
Well, fucking motherfucker should be the same word anyway. Like, I don't know why the fuck it isn't.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again, Zephan. We appreciate you. It's time for us to take you out with something that I got. Believe it or not, it's a parody song. I'm not familiar with the source material, however, but I thought that it was well done enough that it deserved a little play here. This is a parody of FTX.
On November 6th, the token's value began to fall, losing more than 80% of its worth in the span of 72 hours.
Looks like we got a situation on our hands.
Regulators!
Mount up. It was a clear black night. He was sitting at home looking at a JPEG on his trusty iPhone. It was a rare NFT of a hipster mouse. So he did what you do. He mortgaged his house and he put in a bid. He was getting the itch. He couldn't sit there while he saw those other people get rich. But then the market crashed. The value deflated. This shouldn't be allowed. They should regulate it. He saw a JPEG. It looked in demand. So he mortgaged his house. Spent $400 grand. We need to pass new laws to prevent this fate. He wouldn't be so dumb if we regulate. Yeah. What? That's not 100% what I was talking about. I mean, the first part was okay, but it's more like it was a cool, crisp day. He was watching the game. That's when he saw a commercial with folks of acclaim. Crypto returns that'll never default. So he thought, what you think? That sounds too good to be false. Mortgaged his house, researched the rate, checked out the CEO. Nothing seemed out of place, but when he checked one morning, the value was gone. We should make fraud illegal. This is all just wrong. He did his research and he studied up, then bought invisible tokens this guy just made up. It was a harsh consequence for an honest mistake. His IQ wouldn't be 5 if we regulate. You know, on the message boards for the NFTs, I'm one of the smarter people. So, you do the math. It was a lukewarm noon. He's on Capitol Hill, cause he got margin called and was facing a bill. You don't understand. I've lost all that I had. You need to pass more laws. This is terribly bad. Excuse me. Thanks for letting me join, but isn't part of the issue him? There's a new dog coin? Maybe the underlying tech is one we shouldn't forestall. It's possible one day. Shiba Inu, it's called. If he hadn't been allowed to be a hodler, he wouldn't have the impulse control of a toddler. We could end human nature with a pen stroke today. Why do I have a feeling that they're gonna regulate? You shouldn't prey on folks with financial illiteracy. By the way, have you seen the state lottery? The Powerball's $1 billion, you better not wait. He's gonna make good decisions when we regulate.